I bumped into my wife's gorgeous friend. "Wait, you're not on the girls' trip with my wife?" she replied. "She's with her lover." Then smirked. "Forget her. How about lunch with me right now?" The grocery store parking lot was nearly empty that Tuesday afternoon. I remember because I'd left work early, something I never did just to pick up ingredients for dinner. Elena had been on her girls' trip for 2 days now, and I'd been planning to surprise her with her favorite risotto when she got back Sunday. The kind of gesture you make when you're trying to keep a marriage interesting after 8 years. I was loading paper bags into the trunk when I heard heels clicking against asphalt. Fast. Purposeful. The kind of sound that makes you look up. "Marcus?" I turned, and there she was. Sienna Valdez, my wife's best friend since college. She looked stunning as always, designer sunglasses pushed up into glossy black hair. A cream blazer that probably cost more than my car payment. Those legs that went on forever in tailored pants and stilettos. Sienna had always been the friend who made me slightly uncomfortable. Too beautiful, too knowing, too aware of her effect on men. "Sienna, hey," I smiled, shutting the trunk. "What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be in Napa with Elena and the girls?" The question came out innocently enough. Natural. The kind of thing you ask when you see someone who should be somewhere else. She stopped walking. Completely. Her expression shifted so quickly, I almost missed it. Surprise, then calculation, then something that looked almost like pity. She pulled her sunglasses down slowly, revealing dark eyes that suddenly seemed to see right through me. "Wait," she tilted her head. "She told you girls' trip?" My stomach dropped. Just a little. Just enough. "Yeah. Napa Valley. Wine tasting. Spa weekend. You, her, Marissa, and what's her name? Jen? The one from her office?" Sienna's perfectly glossed lips curved into something between a smile and a grimace. She glanced around the parking lot empty except for a teenager collecting shopping carts, then stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something expensive and complicated. "Marcus," her voice dropped, soft, almost gentle. "I'm not on any girls' trip. I haven't talked to Elena in almost 2 weeks." The bags in my hands suddenly felt heavier. The afternoon sun seemed too bright. "What?" "There is no girls' trip." She said it slowly, deliberately, like she was explaining something to a child. "Marissa's in Seattle for her sister's wedding. Jen's husband just had surgery. She's been home with him all week. And me?" She gestured to herself. "I'm here, shopping for groceries. Alone." I felt something crack inside my chest. Small. Hairline. Like ice breaking under weight. There has to be some mistake. Elena showed me the itinerary. The hotel confirmation. She's been sending me photos. "Of what?" Sienna interrupted. "Wine bottles? Vineyard views? Sunsets?" She paused. "Stock photos are easy to find, Marcus. Or maybe she's really there. Just not with us." The crack widened. I could hear it now, spreading through everything I thought was solid. Why would she lie about? I stopped. Because I already knew. Deep in that place where we hide truths from ourselves, I already knew. Sienna's expression softened. She reached out like she might touch my arm, then thought better of it. "I'm sorry. I thought you knew. I thought maybe you had some arrangement. I don't know. But the way you just asked me." She shook her head. "You really had no idea." I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up. Around us, the world kept moving, cars pulling in and out. The teenager pushing carts, birds circling overhead, but I was frozen in place. Groceries in hand. Reality reshaping itself around me. "Who?" I finally managed. "Who is she with?" Sienna's hesitation told me she knew. She knew exactly who. "Sienna, please." She looked at me for a long moment. In her eyes, I saw something unexpected. Anger. Not at me. For me. Dylan Ashford, her boss at the gallery. She said the name like it tasted bitter. It's been going on for about 4 months. Maybe longer. I found out by accident 6 weeks ago, saw them together at a restaurant downtown when I was meeting clients. The way he touched her. She trailed off. I confronted her the next day. We haven't spoken since. Dylan Ashford. I knew the name. Elena had started working at the Ashford Contemporary Gallery 9 months ago. She'd talked about him constantly those first few months, how brilliant he was, how he really understood art, how he was revolutionizing the Seattle gallery scene. I'd been happy she'd found work she loved after years of being unsatisfied. Happy she had a mentor who appreciated her. How stunningly, devastatingly stupid I'd been. 4 months, I repeated numbly. At least. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I should have told you, but Elena was my best friend. I kept thinking maybe it would just burn out. Maybe she'd come to her senses. But then she started lying to you, using our names. Sienna's jaw tightened. That's when I cut her off. I told her I wanted nothing to do with her until she came clean with you. She called me a judgmental bitch and hung up on me. I set the grocery bags on the ground. I needed my hands free. Needed to not be holding anything because I felt like if I kept gripping those handles, I might break them, might break something. Where are they? My voice sounded strange, distant. I don't know for sure. Probably Napa, like she told you. Or maybe the San Juan Islands, he has a place there. Somewhere romantic, where they can pretend they're not destroying 2 families. She paused. You know he's married too, right? Wife, 2 kids in private school. The whole picture-perfect lie. Of course he was. Of course. I stood there in that parking lot, and something inside me went very quiet, very still. The kind of stillness that comes before storms. I thought about the last 4 months. Every time Elena had worked late, every weekend gallery event I'd skipped because I trusted her, because I was tired, because I was secure in our marriage. Every night she'd come home and kissed me and told me about her day, what had been real and what had been performance. Marcus? Sienna's voice pulled me back. Are you okay? That's a stupid question, but I'm fine. I wasn't. But I would be. She studied my face, and I saw something shift in her expression. Calculation again. Decision. Look, she stepped even closer. I know this is probably the worst possible timing for what I'm about to say, but forget her, just for right now. Just for a few hours. Her hand landed light on my forearm. Let me buy you lunch, or dinner, or drinks, or all 3. I stared at her, at this woman who just detonated my entire life, now looking at me with an expression I'd seen before but never directed at me. Desire mixed with opportunity. The specific hunger of someone who wanted something they'd previously considered off-limits. Sienna. I'm not trying to take advantage, she said quickly, though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. I just think you shouldn't be alone right now. And I've been wanting to tell you the truth for weeks. Let me at least buy you a drink. You can ask me questions, get the full story, or we can not talk about Elena at all. Your choice. Behind her, the sun was starting its slow descent toward the Olympic Mountains. Golden light painted everything amber and orange. Beautiful. Surreal. Like the world had shifted into a different frequency. I should have said no, should have gone home, called Elena, confronted her, started the painful process of truth and consequences. That's what a rational person would do. But I wasn't feeling rational. I was feeling like a man who'd just discovered his entire marriage might be fiction, like someone who'd been cast in a play without knowing it was a play. And here was Sienna Valdez, gorgeous, knowing, dangerous Sienna, offering me an exit from reality. Just for a few hours. 1 drink, I heard myself say. Her smile was triumph and sympathy mixed together. 1 drink, she agreed, though we both knew it was a lie. There's a wine bar 2 blocks from here. Follow me? I looked at my groceries on the ground, the ingredients for risotto. The gesture I'd been planning for a wife who was somewhere else, with someone else, living a life I knew nothing about. Yeah, I said. I'll follow you. I loaded the bags back into my trunk, got in my car, and pulled out behind Sienna's gleaming black Audi. As I drove, my phone buzzed. A text from Elena, having the most amazing time. Just finished a wine tasting. Missing you. Attached was a photo of a sunset over vineyard rows, beautiful, perfect, possibly real, possibly stolen from the internet, possibly taken while Dylan Ashford stood beside her, his arm around her waist, both of them laughing at how easy it was to deceive the trusting husband back home. I deleted the message without responding. Sienna's brake lights glowed red ahead of me as we approached the wine bar. I should turn around, should go home and figure out my next move with a clear head, should not have drinks with my wife's beautiful ex-best friend who was looking at me like I was suddenly visible to her in a whole new way. But I didn't turn around. I parked next to Sienna's Audi and got out. She was waiting by her car, one hip cocked, that knowing smile playing at her lips. "Ready?" she asked. "No," I wanted to say. "I'm not ready for any of this. Not ready for my marriage to be over. Not ready to become the kind of man who has drinks with his wife's friend while his wife is with her lover. Not ready for whatever comes next." But what came out was, "Lead the way." She did, and I followed, because sometimes the only way forward is through the door you know you shouldn't open. Sometimes you walk into the fire just to see if you'll burn. The wine bar was called Vintage Upscale but not pretentious, all exposed brick and low lighting and intimate booths. Sienna led me to a corner table, away from windows, away from casual observation. The kind of spot where people came to have conversations they didn't want overheard. We ordered. She got a Bordeaux. I got whiskey, because wine suddenly seemed obscene. "So," Sienna said, once our drinks arrived, she swirled her glass, watching me over the rim. "What do you want to know?" "Everything," I thought. "Nothing. I want to rewind time to before I knew. I want to unknow what I now know." "Tell me about the restaurant," I said instead. "When you saw them together, tell me what you saw." And she did, in detail, every gesture, every look, every intimate touch. She painted the picture deliberately, precisely, like she wanted me to see it clearly, to understand exactly what I was up against. By the time she finished, I'd finished my whiskey and ordered another. "I'm sorry," she said again, and this time she let her hand cover mine on the table. Warm, soft, dangerous. "Are you?" I asked, because I was starting to suspect Sienna had her own agenda here, had maybe always had her own agenda. She didn't pull her hand away. "About Elena hurting you?" "Yes." "About having you here, alone with me, finally seeing me?" She smiled, slow. "Maybe I'm not sorry about that part." And there it was, the truth beneath the sympathy. Sienna had always wanted something she couldn't have, and now she could. I should have left, should have walked out right then, but I didn't. Instead, I ordered a third whiskey and let her hand stay on mine, warm and wrong, and somehow exactly what I needed. Because if Elena could rewrite our marriage without telling me, maybe I could rewrite one evening, just one. Maybe I could stop being the faithful husband for a few hours and see what it felt like to be someone else entirely. Outside, the sun set completely. Inside, Sienna leaned closer, her perfume wrapping around me like a promise and a threat. And I let her. The whiskey burned going down, but it was the kind of burn that felt clarifying, like cauterizing a wound. Sienna watched me drain the glass, her dark eyes tracking every movement with an intensity that should have made me uncomfortable. Maybe it did. Maybe I just didn't care anymore. "Another?" she asked, gesturing to the server before I could answer. "I'm driving," I said, though the protest sounded weak even to my own ears. "So call an Uber later." Or, she paused, letting the implication hang in the air between us. "I have a guest room, very comfortable, very separate from my bedroom. Unless you'd prefer otherwise." There it was again. That directness, that absolute certainty that she could say these things to me now, that the rules had changed the moment she'd told me the truth about Elena. "Sienna." I pulled my hand away from under hers, needing the physical distance to think clearly. "What are we doing here?" "Really?" She leaned back in the booth, studying me like I was a painting she was considering purchasing. The low lighting cast shadows across her face, making her look older, more knowing. Behind her, other couples talked and laughed, living their normal Tuesday evenings, oblivious to the fact that my entire world had just collapsed. "You want honesty?" she asked. "I think I deserve at least that much tonight." "Fair enough." She took a long sip of her wine, then set the glass down with deliberate care. "I've been attracted to you since the day Elena introduced us. That was what, 9 years ago? Your wedding." I blinked. That was not what I'd expected her to say. "I was her maid of honor," Sienna continued, her voice dropping into that confessional tone I'd heard her use when she'd had too much wine at dinner parties. "I helped her pick out her dress. I threw her bachelorette party. I stood next to her at the altar and watched you two say your vows, and the whole time I was thinking, she doesn't deserve you." "Sienna, let me finish." She held up one manicured finger. "I'm not proud of it. You were my best friend's fiancé, then husband. Off limits, sacred, so I buried it. Dated other men. Got engaged myself for a while. You remember David?" I nodded. David had been a tech entrepreneur. Rich, handsome, boring. They'd been engaged for 6 months before Sienna had called it off. I ended things with David because I realized I was trying to find a version of you. Someone steady and kind and fundamentally decent. Someone who actually listened when people talked. Someone who didn't treat relationships like transactions. She laughed, short and bitter. "Turns out men like that are rare. Turns out I'd already met one, and he was married to my best friend." The fourth whiskey arrived. I didn't touch it yet. I needed to hear this sober, or as sober as I could manage. "So I stayed friends with Elena," Sienna went on. "Stayed close. Came to your dinner parties and game nights and pretended I was just the supportive best friend. And maybe I was. Maybe I really did care about her happiness. But there was always this other layer, you know? This awareness of you. The way you'd refill everyone's drinks before they had to ask. The way you'd notice when Elena was getting tired at parties and start making exit excuses for her. Little things. Husband things." She paused, swirling her wine again. A couple at the next table burst into laughter, the sound jarring against the weight of what Sienna was telling me. Then about 6 months ago, I started noticing changes in Elena. She was distant when we talked, distracted. She'd check her phone constantly and smile at messages she wouldn't let me see. Classic signs, right? But I didn't want to believe it. Not Elena. Not the woman who'd spent our entire friendship lecturing me about the importance of honesty and commitment and all that sanctimonious bullshit. The anger in her voice was sharp now, cutting through the sultry undertones. When I saw them together at that restaurant, I wanted to be wrong. I wanted there to be some explanation. But the way he touched the small of her back when they walked in, the way she leaned into him, the way they sat on the same side of the booth, his hand on her thigh under the table. Sienna's jaw tightened. I sat there for an hour watching them, and I felt sick. Not just because she was cheating on you, but because she was throwing away something real. For him. "You know Dylan?" I asked. "Of him. Everyone in the Seattle art scene knows of Dylan Ashford. He's been married to his wife Rebecca for 15 years. She comes from oil money. Her family basically funded his gallery. He's charming, connected, and an absolutely notorious womanizer. There've been rumors about him and his staff for years. Elena is just the latest in a long line of gallery girls who thought they were special." The words hit like physical blows. Gallery girls. A long line. Elena wasn't even unique in her betrayal. She was a cliché. When I confronted her the next day, she didn't even try to deny it. Sienna's voice went cold with the memory. She said I wouldn't understand. That what she had with Dylan was different, transcendent. That you were a good man, but she needed passion, needed to feel alive again. She actually said that feel alive again, like being married to you, was some kind of slow death. I reached for the whiskey now, drained half of it in one swallow. I told her she was being an idiot, Sienna continued, that she was going to destroy her marriage for a man who would never leave his wife, never give up his comfortable life. You know what she said? "At least I'm brave enough to go after what I want." Sienna's laugh was razor sharp. Like betrayal is bravery. Like lying to your husband every day takes courage. The booth felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. I could feel the whiskey working through my system, loosening the tight grip I'd been keeping on my emotions. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. 6 weeks ago when you found out, why didn't you call me?" Sienna was quiet for a long moment. She finished her wine, signaled for another, then met my eyes. "Because I'm a coward," she said simply. "Elena was my best friend. We'd been through everything together: college, bad boyfriends, career changes, her parents' divorce, my mom's cancer. I kept thinking if I gave her time, she'd end it herself. Come clean. Fix things." She shook her head, but she didn't. She just got better at lying. Started using our names as cover stories. Started sending you fake photos and itineraries. And I realized she wasn't going to stop. She was going to keep doing this until you caught her or until she decided she was ready to leave. And neither of those scenarios involved her being honest with you. "So you decided to tell me today?" "No." Sienna's new wine arrived, and she took a sip. "Today was chance. Pure coincidence. I didn't plan to run into you. But when I saw you there in that parking lot, looking so .co.tent, so unaware, talking about the girls' trip like it was real," her voice softened. "I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't be complicit in her lie. So I told you, and I know my timing was terrible and my delivery was harsh, but Marcus, you needed to know." She wasn't wrong. I did need to know. The question was what I was going to do with the knowledge. "Tell me more about him," I said. "About Dylan. I want to understand what she sees in him." Sienna considered the request, then nodded slowly. "He's 42. Tall, silver fox type, looks like he stepped out of a Tom Ford ad. Drives a Porsche, wears custom suits, collects modern art. He's the kind of man who makes women feel sophisticated just by standing next to him. And he's smart, legitimately brilliant about art and culture and how to make people feel special." "You sound like you admire him." "I admire his strategy," she corrected. "He's built an entire life around being desirable. The gallery, the cars, the wife with the trust fund, the mistresses on the side. He's curated himself like one of his exhibitions, and women like Elena fall for it because they want to be part of something that beautiful, that rarefied." She leaned forward. "But here's what they don't see. Dylan Ashford is hollow. All surface, no depth. He collects women the way he collects art, for display, for status, for the temporary thrill of acquisition. Once the novelty wears off, he moves on to the next piece. How long until the novelty of Elena wears off? Hard to say. A few months, a year, long enough to thoroughly destroy your marriage, probably. Not long enough for him to actually leave his wife." I thought about Elena, my Elena, the woman I'd married 8 years ago, the art history major who'd cried during our vows, the woman who'd held my hand through my father's funeral, the person I'd built a life with, made plans with, trusted completely. When had she stopped being that person? Or had she always been someone else, someone I'd never really known? "What should I do?" I asked. The question came out more vulnerable than I'd intended, more lost. Sienna reached across the table again, but this time she didn't take my hand. She just let her fingers rest near mine, close enough to touch, but not touching, giving me the choice. "That depends on what you want," she said. "Do you want to save your marriage? Confront her, demand couples therapy, try to work through it? Some people do. They come back from affairs, rebuild trust, all that. Do you think that's what I should do?" "I think." She paused, choosing words carefully. "I think Elena made a choice. She chose to lie to you, to use her friends as cover, to go away with another man while sending you fake photos and love messages. That's not a mistake, Marcus. That's not a moment of weakness. That's a deliberate, sustained betrayal. And I think you deserve better than spending the rest of your life wondering when she's actually where she says she is." The truth of it settled over me like a weight. She was right. Even if Elena ended things with Dylan tomorrow, Came home, confessed everything. How could I ever trust her again? How could I look at her phone without wondering? Believe her work schedules? Her girls' nights? Or, Sienna continued, her voice dropping lower, you could do what she's doing. Take something for yourself. Stop being the faithful husband to a faithless wife. See what it feels like to be wanted by someone who actually sees you. Her meaning was crystal clear. The offer was explicit now, no longer hidden behind sympathy and whine. I looked at her, really looked at her. Sienna Valdez, my wife's ex-best friend, sitting across from me in a wine bar, offering herself up like an alternative future. She was beautiful, desirable, sophisticated. She was everything Elena had apparently decided she needed more of in her life. And I felt nothing. Or not nothing, but not desire either. Just a strange, hollow curiosity about what it would feel like to be someone who took what Sienna was offering. Someone who met betrayal with betrayal. Someone who stopped being Marcus, the good husband, and became someone else entirely. I need to think, I said finally. Sienna nodded slowly, a small smile playing at her lips. Of course, I'm not going anywhere. She glanced at her watch, something elegant and probably Swiss. It's almost 7. We could get dinner, keep talking, or I could drive you home, let you process all this. I thought about going home, to the empty house, to the kitchen where I'd planned to make risotto, to the bedroom where Elena's pillow still smelled like her shampoo, where her jewelry was scattered across the dresser, where every surface held evidence of the life I thought we had. Dinner, I heard myself say. Let's get dinner. Sienna's smile widened. Excellent choice. There's a Japanese place 3 blocks from here. Best omakase in Seattle. We paid for the drinks and left Vintage. Outside, the evening had cooled and Sienna shivered slightly in her blazer. Without thinking, I started to offer her my jacket, then stopped myself. That was something Marcus the husband would do. Marcus the husband would always make sure the women around him were comfortable, taken care of, warm. But maybe tonight, I was someone else. Sienna noticed my hesitation and laughed. It's fine. I'm tougher than I look. We walked to the restaurant side by side, not touching, but close enough that our arms occasionally brushed. Around us, Seattle hummed with its Tuesday evening rhythm, people heading home from work, grabbing dinner, living their normal lives. My phone buzzed. Another text from Elena. The sunset here is incredible. Wish you could see it. Love you. Another photo. Another perfect vineyard view. Another lie. I put my phone away without responding and followed Sienna into the restaurant, into whatever came next, into the version of myself I was about to become. The restaurant was called Suki, and it was the kind of place Elena would have loved. Intimate, elegant, with a minimalist aesthetic that she would have photographed extensively for her Instagram. The thought made something twist in my chest. How many moments like this had she shared with Dylan instead of me? How many perfect restaurants, perfect sunsets, perfect lies? Table for 2, Sienna told the hostess, preferably somewhere quiet. We were led to a corner booth with a view of the open kitchen, where chefs worked with precise, almost meditative movements. The hostess handed us menus and disappeared. Sienna ordered sake without consulting me, something expensive. I assumed from the way she said the name, like she'd ordered it before. You come here often? I asked, settling into the booth. Often enough. I bring clients here when I want to impress them. She studied me across the table. You're not a client, though. You're something else entirely. What am I, Sienna? She considered the question, tilting her head in that way she had. Right now, you're a man at a crossroads. You're about to make choices that will define who you become after this. And she smiled, I'm an option, a possibility, maybe a mistake, definitely a complication. The sake arrived in a beautiful ceramic bottle with 2 matching cups. The server poured for both of us, explained the omakase menu chef's choice, 16 courses, trust the process, and left us alone again. To truth, Sienna said, raising her cup. However painful it might be. I touched my cup to hers. The sake was smooth, delicate, nothing like the whiskey I'd been drinking earlier. It tasted like something you were supposed to savor, slowly, mindfully. I drank it like water. Sienna watched me drain the cup and refilled it without comment. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Anything. Do you actually care about me? Or is this just about winning something Elena had?" The question was harsher than I'd intended, but the alcohol was stripping away my usual politeness. Sienna didn't flinch. "That's a fair question." She took a sip of her own sake. "The honest answer? It's both. I've wanted you for years. That part is real. The attraction, the respect, the frustration, watching Elena take you for granted. All real." She paused. "But yes, there's also a part of me that wants to prove something. That wants her to know what it feels like to lose something precious because of her own selfishness. Is that petty? Absolutely. Does it make my feelings for you less genuine? I don't think so. So you want revenge." "I want justice," she corrected. "There's a difference. Revenge is childish. Justice is proportional. She betrayed her husband and threw away her best friend. She should understand what that costs." The first course arrived delicate slices of yellowtail with jalapeno and citrus. I ate without tasting, my mind churning through everything Sienna had said. "Tell me about your marriage," Sienna said suddenly. "Not the parts that include Elena's affair, the rest of it. What was it actually like?" I looked up, surprised by the question. "Why do you want to know?" "Because I've only ever seen the outside, the dinner parties, the social media posts, the public version. I want to know what it was really like when it was just the two of you." I thought about it, trying to reach past the anger and betrayal to remember what my marriage had actually been, before today, before I knew. "Comfortable," I said finally. "We were comfortable together. We had routines. Saturday morning farmer's market, Sunday brunch, Thursday date nights, when we could manage it. We didn't fight much. Maybe we should have fought more." I paused, the sake warming my throat. "We were partners, best friends, or I thought we were. When did you last have sex?" The question was invasive, inappropriate. I should have shut it down. Instead, I answered, 3 weeks ago, maybe 4. She said she was tired from work, stressed about the new exhibition at the gallery. I laughed bitterly. I believed her, gave her space, told her I understood. While she was fucking her boss. While she was fucking her boss, I repeated. The words felt strange in my mouth. Vulgar. Real. Sienna's expression softened. "I'm sorry. I know this doesn't help, but you deserve to be with someone who can't keep their hands off you. Someone who prioritizes you. Someone who doesn't need to look elsewhere for excitement. Someone like you? Maybe. Or someone like me. The point is, Marcus, you've spent 8 years being the steady one. The reliable one. The husband who makes risotto and goes to bed early because he has work in the morning. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's admirable, actually. But maybe it's time to be something else for a while." The second course came tuna tartare with quail egg. Then the third grilled octopus with miso. The chef's choices kept arriving, each more exquisite than the last, and I kept eating without really tasting anything. Sienna kept my sake cup full, kept talking, kept slowly dismantling the walls I'd built around my marriage. "Did you ever suspect?" she asked. "Even once?" I thought back over the past 4 months. Had there been signs I'd missed? Red flags I'd ignored? "She started going to the gym more," I said slowly. "Got a new haircut. Bought new lingerie. I remember because I found the shopping bag and thought maybe it was for me. For us. But she never wore it. Said she wanted to save it for a special occasion." I felt sick. I guess Dylan was the special occasion. What else? "She started taking calls in the other room. Said it was work stuff. Gallery business. Boring for me. I didn't question it because I trusted her. The word tasted like ash. She'd come home later than usual some nights. Always had explanations. Dinner with a collector. Drinks with a client. Networking event. And I believed every single one because why wouldn't I? We were married. We made vows." Sienna reached across the table and this time, she did take my hand. Her fingers were warm, her grip firm. You believed her because you're a good person who assumes other people are telling the truth. That's not a weakness, Marcus. That's called having integrity. She's the one who should be ashamed, not you. Then why do I feel like such an idiot? Because betrayal makes us feel foolish. It makes us question our own judgment. But you're not an idiot. You're someone who loved his wife and trusted his marriage. There's no shame in that. The courses kept coming. Sushi, sashimi, grilled fish, Wagyu beef. Each one a small work of art. Each one wasted on me because all I could taste was the bitterness of my own naivety. Tell me something, I said, the sake making me bold. If I went home with you tonight, if I took what you're offering, would that make you happy? Sienna's eyes glinted in the low light, deliriously. Even though it would be for all the wrong reasons? Even though I'd just be using you to hurt Elena the way she hurt me? Who says those are the wrong reasons? She leaned closer, her voice dropping. Maybe revenge sex is exactly what you need right now. Maybe you need to do something selfish and reckless and completely unlike the Marcus you've been for the past 8 years. Maybe you need to remember what it feels like to be desired by someone who actually wants you. And tomorrow? What happens tomorrow when the sake wears off and I have to face reality? Tomorrow, you deal with your marriage. You confront Elena, file for divorce, divide up the assets. Tomorrow you start the painful, practical process of untangling your life from hers. She squeezed my hand. But tonight? Tonight, you get to be someone else. You get to feel wanted and powerful and alive. You get to take something beautiful for yourself instead of always being the one who gives. It was a seductive argument, made more seductive by the alcohol and the betrayal and the fact that Sienna was genuinely, objectively beautiful. It would be so easy to say yes, to go home with her, to lose myself in someone else's body and pretend, for a few hours, that I was the kind of man who could do that without it destroying something essential inside me. I don't know if I can, I admitted. Because you still love her? Did I? I thought about Elena, about the woman I'd married versus the woman who was currently in Napa, or wherever, with another man. Were they even the same person? I don't know what I feel anymore, I said honestly. Angry, betrayed, humiliated. But love? I shook my head. I loved who I thought she was, but that person might have never existed. Then let her go, Sienna urged. At least for tonight. Let her be someone else's problem. Let Dylan Ashford have the woman who lies and cheats and uses her friends. You deserve better than that. The final course arrived, a delicate green tea panna cotta, dessert, the end of the meal, decision time. My phone buzzed again. I pulled it out, already knowing what I'd see. About to have the most amazing dinner at this vineyard restaurant. The chef is incredible. Call you before bed. Miss you. A photo of a plate that looked suspiciously professional. Stock image or real? Did it even matter? Sienna was watching me, reading my face. What did she say? I showed her the phone. She looked at the message, and something dangerous flashed across her face. You know what I think? She said softly. I think you should text her back. Tell her you miss her too. Tell her you love her. Make her think everything is fine. Why would I do that? Because right now, she has all the power. She's controlling the narrative, the timeline, the truth. She thinks you're home being the good husband while she's off playing out her fantasy. Sienna's smile was sharp. Don't give her the satisfaction of knowing she hurt you. Not yet. Let her come home Sunday thinking she got away with it. And then, she paused, then you take your power back. How? And God by. However you want. Divorce papers, a confrontation, evidence. Make her face what she's done when she's not expecting it. When she's comfortable and complacent and certain you'll never find out, Sienna leaned back. Trust me, Marcus, the worst thing you can do right now is tip your hand. Play the game a little longer. Give yourself time to think clearly about what you actually want. It made a certain strategic sense. And it would give me time to process, to plan, to figure out who I wanted to be in the aftermath of this betrayal. I typed out a response. Sounds amazing. Can't wait to hear all about it. Love you too. I hit send and felt something cold settle in my chest. That was my first real lie to Elena. My first deliberate deception. It should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt like balance. Good, Sienna said approvingly. Now you're thinking strategically. She signaled for the check. So, your car is still at the grocery store. You've had too much to drink to drive. You could Uber home to your empty house and spend the night wondering where your wife really is and what she's really doing. Or she let the invitation hang. I looked at her, this beautiful, complicated woman who'd just blown up my world and was now offering herself as consolation prize. Taking her home would be wrong in so many ways. It would make me no better than Elena. It would be using her, using the situation, using my pain as an excuse to do something I'd never normally do. But then again, I'd never normally be in this situation. I'd never normally be a husband whose wife was on a fake girls' trip with her lover. Normal had stopped applying to my life about 4 hours ago. I need to know something first, I said. Anything. Is this just about sex? Just about making Elena jealous? Or is there something else you want from me? Sienna was quiet for a long moment, studying her sake cup. When she looked up, her expression was more vulnerable than I'd seen it all night. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe I've built you up in my head for so long that I need to know if the reality matches the fantasy. Maybe I just want one night with the man I've wanted for 9 years. Or maybe, she paused, maybe I actually think we could be good together. That once you're free from Elena, once you've healed, there could be something real between us. But I'm not asking for that tonight. Tonight I'm just asking if you want to not be alone. It was the most honest thing she'd said all evening. And maybe that's what decided me, the honesty. The willingness to admit she had mixed motives, complex feelings, selfish desires. At least, she wasn't lying to me. Unlike Elena, who was probably sitting across from Dylan right now, lying with every breath. Okay, I said. Sienna blinked. Okay? Okay, I'll come home with you. But just to sleep. Just to not be alone in my house tonight. Nothing else. She smiled softer this time, less predatory. Just to sleep. I can work with that. The check came. Sienna paid before I could protest, and we left Suki together, stepping out into the cool Seattle night. My phone stayed silent. Elena was probably too busy with her vineyard fantasy to text again. Sienna's Audi was parked nearby. She unlocked it and we got in expensive leather seats, the scent of her perfume, soft jazz playing from the speakers. As she drove through the city streets toward her apartment, I stared out the window and wondered who I was becoming. Not Marcus, the faithful husband. Not anymore. Someone new. Someone I didn't quite recognize yet. Someone who was about to spend the night at another woman's apartment while his wife slept beside her lover. The symmetry of it should have felt like justice. Instead, it just felt like falling. Sienna lived in a high-rise downtown, the kind of building with a doorman and marble floors, and the subtle scent of wealth in the air. We rode the elevator to the 23rd floor in silence, the space between us charged with possibility and restraint. Every floor that passed felt like a decision I was making and remaking. I could still turn around, still go home, still be the person I'd been this morning. But I didn't press the button for the lobby. I just stood there, watching the numbers climb, feeling the weight of what I was doing settle into my bones. Her apartment was exactly what I had expected, sleek, modern, all clean lines, and carefully curated art. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, lights spreading out like a constellation of other people's lives, normal lives. Lives where wives went on actual girls' trips and husbands waited faithfully at home. Wine? Coffee? Water? Sienna asked, setting her keys in a small bowl by the door. Water, I said. My head was already spinning from the sake, and I needed something to anchor me. She disappeared into the kitchen while I stood in her living room, looking at the art on her walls. Abstract pieces, mostly bold colors, aggressive brushstrokes, the kind of work that demanded attention. So different from the soft, contemplative landscapes Elena favored. had favored. I didn't know what Elena liked anymore. Sienna returned with 2 glasses of water and handed me one. Our fingers brushed and she didn't pull away, letting the contact linger a moment too long. "Guest room is down the hall, second door on the right," she said. "Fresh towels in the bathroom. Help yourself to anything you need. Thank you." Or, she set her water glass down on the coffee table. "You could stay out here with me for a while. Talk or not talk. Just be." I should have gone to the guest room. Should have put a locked door between us and the temptation that hummed in the air like electricity before a storm. Instead, I sat down on her couch, expensive leather, the kind that molded to your body. Sienna sat beside me, close but not touching, and we both stared out at the city lights. "Do you want to know something terrible?" I asked after a long silence. "Always." Part of me isn't even surprised. About Elena, I took a drink of water, the cold helping to clear my head slightly. There were moments over the past year where I'd catch her looking at me like she was disappointed, like I wasn't quite enough anymore. I'd ask if something was wrong, and she'd smile and say everything was fine. But I knew it wasn't. I just didn't want to push, because I was afraid of what I'd find. "So you suspected?" "No, not this. Never this. I just knew something had shifted. The way you know when a room has gotten colder even though you can't see your breath yet." I turned to look at Sienna. Did she talk about me before the affair? Did she tell you she was unhappy? Sienna considered the question, her expression troubled. Not explicitly, but there were comments, little things. She'd say stuff like, "Marcus is so predictable," or "I always know exactly what he's going to say." I thought she meant it affectionately, like comfortable, but looking back, he trailed off. She was bored. Maybe. Or maybe she was looking for an excuse. Some people need drama, need chaos. They mistake stability for stagnation. Sienna shifted closer, her thigh nearly touching mine. "For what it's worth, I never thought you were boring. I thought you were the most interesting person in any room. You just didn't perform it the way Dylan Ashford performs everything." "Performance," I repeated. "That's what he is to her, isn't it? Theater, fantasy, something exciting to distract from real life." "Exactly. And when the curtain comes down, when reality sets in, she's going to realize what she gave up. But by then, it'll be too late." I wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe Elena would eventually regret this, would see the mistake she'd made. But another part of me, the part that was growing colder and harder with each passing hour, didn't care if she regretted it or not. She'd made her choice. Now, I had to make mine. "Can I ask you something?" Sienna said softly. "You've been asking me things all night. This is different." She turned to face me fully, tucking one leg under her. "If Elena ended it tomorrow, if she came home and confessed everything and begged for forgiveness, would you take her back?" The question hung between us like smoke. Would I? Could I? "I don't know," I admitted. "This morning, if you'd asked me if I could ever forgive infidelity, I would have said no. Absolutely not. It's a deal breaker, a line you don't cross. But now that I'm actually here, living it," I ran my hand through my hair. "I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I'm capable of forgiving or not forgiving." "What if I told you she doesn't deserve forgiveness?" Sienna's voice had gone intense, passionate. "What if I told you that you deserve someone who would never even consider doing this to you? Someone who looks at you and sees everything they need? Someone like you? Yes, someone like me." She didn't look away, didn't soften the directness of it. "I know the timing is terrible. I know this all looks opportunistic. But Marcus, I've spent 9 years watching you be underappreciated, watching Elena take you for granted while you just kept being steady and kind and reliable. And I kept thinking if I had that, if I had you, I would never look elsewhere. I would never need to." The intensity of her gaze was almost too much. I looked away, back to the city lights, trying to find some kind of clarity in the chaos of my thoughts. You don't really know me, I said. You know the version of me that shows up to dinner parties, the social version, the guest version. You don't know what I'm like when I'm difficult or withdrawn or dealing with my own shit. So show me. She reached out, her hand settling on my knee. Warm, insistent. Stop being the polite guest. Stop performing the good husband. Show me the real Marcus, the one who's angry and hurt and betrayed, the one who wants to burn it all down and start over. Show me him. Something in me cracked. Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe it was the pain of betrayal finally breaking through my shock. Maybe it was just exhaustion from holding myself together all evening. Whatever it was, I felt it split open like a fault line. You want to see the real me? My voice came out harder than I intended. The real me wants to call Elena right now and tell her I know everything. Wants to hear her scramble for excuses, listen to her try to lie her way out of it. The real me wants to drive to wherever she actually is and confront her in front of Dylan, make them both face what they've done. The real me wants to hurt her the way she's hurt me. Then do it, Sienna urged. Call her right now. Tell her you know. No. I stood up, needing to move, needing space. I walked to the windows and pressed my palm against the glass, feeling the cold seep through. Because that's what she'd expect. That's what the predictable, boring husband would do. Make a scene, get emotional, let her control the narrative. She'd cry and apologize and make promises she wouldn't keep, and I'd either take her back or I wouldn't, but either way, she'd be the one who got to decide how this plays out. I turned back to face Sienna, who was watching me with something like admiration in her eyes. I want her to come home Sunday thinking everything is fine, I continued. I want her to walk into our house believing she got away with it. And then I want to watch her face when she realizes I know. When she understands that I've known, that I've been letting her lie to me just to see how far she'd take it. I want her to feel what it's like to have the ground disappear beneath her feet. That's better, Sienna said, standing and crossing to me. That's so much better than righteous anger. That's strategy. That's power. She stopped just in front of me, close enough that I could feel the heat of her body. You're going to make her face the consequences of her choices, and you're not going to let her see you broken. Is that what this is? I gestured between us. Part of the strategy? Sleeping with her ex-best friend to really drive the point home? It could be. Sienna's hand came up to my chest, resting over my heart. Or it could be something else entirely. Something that has nothing to do with Elena and everything to do with what we might be to each other. I looked down at her hand on my chest, at the elegant fingers with their perfect manicure, at the way she was looking at me like I was something worth having. It would be so easy to close the distance between us. To kiss her, touch her, lose myself in the uncomplicated desire of someone who wanted me without the weight of 8 years of history. But even now, even with everything that had happened, I couldn't quite make myself do it. I can't, I said quietly. Not tonight. Not like this. If I do this, if we do this, I need it to be because I actually want it. Not because I'm trying to even some cosmic score with Elena. Sienna's expression flickered with disappointment, but she nodded. That's fair. That's probably smarter than what I want, which is to take you to my bedroom right now and make you forget she exists. Rain check? She laughed, soft and a little sad. Rain check. But Marcus, when you do want it, and I think you will, eventually I'll be here, because this isn't just about revenge for me. I meant what I said earlier. I've wanted you for years. I'm just finally in a position to do something about it. She stepped back, giving me space, and the loss of her proximity felt both like relief and regret. The guest room really is yours if you want it, she said. No expectations, no pressure. You can sleep, shower, leave in the morning, or we can stay up all night talking about anything other than Elena. Your choice. I glanced at my watch. It was almost 10. In a normal world, I'd be home by now, probably reading or watching television, waiting for Elena to call before bed. In a normal world, my wife wouldn't be with another man. In a normal world, I wouldn't be standing in Sienna Valdez's apartment contemplating infidelity as a form of justice. But this wasn't a normal world anymore. I should sleep, I said. My head is spinning and I need to think clearly about what comes next. Of course, Sienna walked to a closet and pulled out some clothes, a t-shirt, sweatpants. These might be big on you, but they're better than sleeping in your work clothes. Bathroom has everything you need. I took the clothes from her, our fingers brushing again. Thank you for tonight, for telling me the truth, for all of it. Don't thank me yet, she said with a slight smile. We're just getting started. I didn't ask what she meant. I just took the clothes and headed down the hall to the guest room. It was as elegant as the rest of the apartment king bed, with crisp white linens, abstract art on the walls, a chair by the window with a view of the city. I set the clothes on the bed and sat down, feeling the events of the day finally catching up with me. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out expecting another message from Elena, but it was from my best friend, Derek. Beer tomorrow night? Haven't seen you in weeks. Normal life, continuing on. Friends who didn't know my marriage was imploding. A world that kept spinning while mine came apart. I typed back, maybe. I'll let you know tomorrow. Then I pulled up my messages with Elena. Read through the last week of our exchanges. Her messages were full of love, affection, plans for when she got back. My responses were similar, missing her, looking forward to seeing her, normal husband things. All of it built on a foundation of lies. I thought about what Sienna had said about letting Elena come home thinking everything was fine, about being strategic instead of emotional, about taking my power back. She was right. The worst thing I could do right now was show my hand. Let Elena think she'd won, let her get comfortable in her deception. And then, when she least expected it, I'd make her face the truth. But first, I needed to know everything. Where she really was, what she'd told Dylan about me, how long this had been going on. Whether she was planning to leave me or just keep me as her stable backup while she played out her fantasy. I needed evidence, facts, ammunition. I opened my laptop. I'd grabbed it from my car before Sienna drove us here and started searching. Dylan Ashford's social media was private, but his gallery's Instagram was public. I scrolled through photos of exhibitions, artists, society events. Then I found a photo from 3 weeks ago, a gallery opening. Elena, in a black dress I'd never seen before, standing close to Dylan, his hand on her lower back, both of them smiling like they shared a secret. The caption, celebrating new beginnings with our incredible team. Number Ashford Contemporary. Number Seattle Art. New beginnings. How poetic. I downloaded the photo, saved it to a folder. Then I started going through our bank statements online, looking for purchases I didn't recognize, charges that didn't make sense. And there they were, expensive dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. A hotel charge from 2 months ago when she'd said she was visiting her sister in Portland. Lingerie purchases from La Perla. All the evidence I'd been too trusting to look for. All the signs I'd ignored because I'd wanted to believe in my marriage. I saved everything. Screenshots, statements, photos, building a case like a lawyer, preparing for trial. By the time I was done, it was past midnight. I was exhausted, but wired, my mind racing with possibilities and plans. I changed into the clothes Sienna had given me. They smelled like expensive detergent and faintly of cologne, some other man who'd worn them before me, and climbed into the guest bed. The sheets were cool and soft against my skin. Through the window, I could see the city lights still glowing, evidence of thousands of other lives being lived. Some of them probably just as messy as mine. Some of them worse. Some of them blissfully uncomplicated. My phone lit up one last time. Elena, about to go to sleep. Today was perfect. I love you so much. Can't wait to come home to you. I stared at the message for a long time. At the heart emoji. At the lies wrapped in declarations of love. Finally, I typed back, love you too. Sleep well. Then I turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet sounds of Sienna moving around her apartment, and wondered who I was going to be when the sun came up. I woke to unfamiliar light slanting through unfamiliar windows. For a moment, I forgot where I was, forgot everything that had happened yesterday. Then it all came rushing back like cold water. Elena, Dylan, the lies, Sienna. I was in another woman's apartment while my wife was with another man. The symmetry should have felt like justice. Instead, it just felt hollow. I checked my phone. 6:47 a.m. 2 messages from Elena, sent at different points during the night. Good night, baby. Dream of me. Sent at 11:34 p.m. set. Morning. The sunrise here is breathtaking. Heading to a hot air balloon ride today. Sent at 6:15 a.m. A hot air balloon ride. How romantic. How picturesque. How utterly calculated. I sat up in bed, my head pounding slightly from last night's alcohol. The guest room looked different in daylight, less elegant, more sterile. Like a hotel room designed to be beautiful, but not lived in. Through the door, I could hear the faint sounds of movement. Sienna was awake. I got up, used the bathroom, splashed water on my face. The man in the mirror looked tired, older somehow, like I'd aged years overnight. I was still wearing Sienna's borrowed clothes, the t-shirt and sweatpants that belonged to some other man in her life. The thought bothered me more than it should have. When I emerged from the guest room, I found Sienna in the kitchen, already dressed for the day in black pants and a silk blouse, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She looked polished, professional, like she'd slept perfectly and had her entire life together. The contrast to how I felt was stark. "Coffee?" she asked, gesturing to a French press on the counter. "Please." She poured 2 cups, handed me one. The coffee was excellent, rich and smooth, probably some expensive single-origin blend. Of course it was. "How did you sleep?" she asked. "Barely." "Same." She leaned against the counter, studying me over the rim of her cup. "I kept thinking about what you said last night, about letting Elena come home thinking everything is fine, about making her face the truth, on your terms. And I think it's brilliant. But it only works if you can actually pull it off. If you can look her in the eye and pretend nothing has changed." She paused. "Can you do that?" Could I? I thought about Elena walking through our front door Sunday evening, all smiles and stories about her fake trip, thought about hugging her, kissing her, listening to her elaborate lies, while knowing the truth. The idea made my stomach turn. "I don't know," I admitted. "Then you need practice." Sienna set down her coffee cup. "Pretend I'm Elena. I just got home from my girls' trip. Show me what you'd do." "Sienna, I'm serious. If you're going to do this, you need to be convincing. So practice on me." It felt absurd, standing in her kitchen in borrowed clothes, pretending she was my cheating wife. But she had a point. If I couldn't even pretend with Sienna, how would I manage with Elena? I took a breath, then stepped toward her. Imagined she was Elena, returning home with her suitcase full of lies. "Hey, babe," I said, my voice sounding strange and wooden. "How was the trip?" Sienna shook her head. "Terrible. You sound like you're reading a hostage statement." "Again, put some warmth into it. You're supposed to be the loving husband who missed his wife." I tried again. "Welcome home. I missed you. How was Napa?" "Better, but you're still too stiff. Here." She stepped closer, right into my personal space. "Put your arms around me. Make it physical. The body remembers what the mind tries to fake." Reluctantly, I put my arms around her waist. She fit differently than Elena, taller, more angular. Her perfume was different too, something crisp and expensive, where Elena favored warm vanilla scents. "Now say it again," Sienna instructed. "Like you mean it." "I missed you," I said. And this time I let some genuine emotion into it. Not for Elena, but for the idea of her, for the wife I thought I had. "How was the trip?" "Much better." Sienna's hands came up to rest on my shoulders. "See? When you let yourself feel something, even if it's pain disguised as affection, it sounds real." That's what you need to do with her. Channel all that hurt into a performance. Make her believe everything is fine while you're already 3 steps ahead of her. I stepped back, breaking the contact. "This feels manipulative." It is manipulative. She's been manipulating you for 4 months. This is just leveling the playing field. Sienna picked up her coffee again. Besides, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just controlling when and how the truth comes out. That's your right. She wasn't wrong. But it still felt like I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. Someone calculating and strategic instead of direct and honest. Then again, maybe direct and honest was what had made me such an easy target in the first place. I need to go home, I said. Shower, change, figure out what I'm doing with the rest of my day. Of course, I'll drive you to your car. Sienna glanced at her watch. I have a client meeting at 9 anyway. 20 minutes later, we were back at the grocery store parking lot where this had all started. My car sat alone in the nearly empty lot, exactly where I'd left it yesterday. It felt like a lifetime ago. Thank you, I said as Sienna pulled up beside it. For last night, for everything. We're not done, you know. She turned to face me. This is just the beginning. You're going to need support over the next few days. Someone who knows the truth. Someone who can help you navigate this. Someone like you. Exactly like me. She reached over and squeezed my hand. Call me if you need to talk, or if you need help gathering more evidence, or if you just need to not be alone with your thoughts. I meant what I said. I'm here for whatever you need. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Then I got out of her car and into mine. As I drove home through the early morning traffic, I felt like I was watching myself from outside my own body. This man driving through Seattle in yesterday's clothes, this man whose wife was cheating on him, this man who'd spent the night at another woman's apartment. Was this who I was now? Was this who I was becoming? My house looked exactly the same as when I'd left it yesterday. Same neat lawn, same blue door, same window boxes. Elena had insisted on planting with seasonal flowers. Nothing had changed on the outside. Everything had changed on the inside. I let myself in, and the silence hit me immediately. The house felt different without Elena in it. Emptier. Or maybe I was just noticing the emptiness for the first time. I went upstairs to our bedroom. My bedroom, I supposed, since Elena was sharing someone else's bed right now. Her side of the closet was half empty, the clothes she'd packed for her trip missing. On her nightstand sat a framed photo of us from our honeymoon in Greece. Both of us tan and smiling, my arm around her shoulders, the Aegean Sea behind us. We'd looked so happy, so certain of our future together. Had she already been capable of this betrayal back then? Or had something changed? Had I changed? Had she? I picked up the frame and studied our younger faces, trying to find the moment where things had started to go wrong. But memory is unreliable, especially when you're looking backwards with new information. Every smile could be reinterpreted. Every moment of distance could be a clue I'd missed. I set the photo face down and went to shower. Under the hot water, I finally let myself feel the full weight of what was happening. My marriage was over. Even if I never confronted Elena, even if she ended things with Dylan tomorrow, something fundamental had broken. Trust, once shattered, doesn't just glue back together. It leaves cracks, weak spots, places where doubt seeps in forever. Could I really spend the rest of my life wondering where she was, who she was texting, whether every work event was real or cover for another affair? No, I couldn't. I wouldn't. Which meant this marriage was done. The only question was how I ended it. I got out of the shower and dressed in fresh clothes, jeans, and a button-down, the kind of casual outfit I'd wear on a normal Wednesday. Except nothing about today was normal. I was supposed to be at work, sitting in meetings, responding to emails, living my regular life. Instead, I called in sick. Told my assistant I had a stomach bug, would probably be out for a few days. She made sympathetic noises and said she'd handle everything. Easy. One lie down. Countless more to go. I made myself breakfast, toast, and eggs, the mechanical process of cooking giving my hands something to do. Then I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and started doing research. Washington was a no-fault divorce state, which meant I didn't need to prove adultery to end my marriage. But having evidence certainly wouldn't hurt, especially when it came to dividing assets. I pulled up our financial records again, this time with a clearer head, and started documenting everything suspicious. The hotel charges, the restaurants, A spa day at a resort we'd never visited together. Cash withdrawals that seemed larger than usual, probably to pay for things she didn't want me to see on our credit card statements. It was all there. A trail of breadcrumbs leading straight to her betrayal. I'd just been too trusting to follow it. I created a folder on my desktop labeled Tax Documents 2025. Boring enough that Elena would never open it. Inside, I saved everything. Bank statements, screenshots of Dylan's Instagram, photos of them together at gallery events, her text messages from this week, full of lies about Napa and hot air balloons and missing me. Evidence. Ammunition. Truth. My phone rang. Derek. "Hey man, you free for lunch?" he asked when I answered. "I'm downtown. Thought we could grab something." Derek. My best friend since college. The guy who'd been my best man. Who'd helped me move into this house. Who knew me better than almost anyone, except Elena. Who had no idea my marriage was imploding. Actually, yeah, I heard myself say, lunch sounds good. We agreed to meet at our usual spot, a pub near Pike Place Market. I had 2 hours. 2 hours to prepare the face I'd need to show the world. The face of a man whose life was fine, whose wife was on a girls' trip, whose marriage was intact. Practice, like Sienna had said. I needed practice. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and tried on different expressions. Neutral, content, slightly distracted, like a man missing his wife, but managing fine on his own. Each one felt like a mask I was learning to wear. "Elena's in Napa," I said to my reflection. "Wine tasting with the girls. She's having a great time." The words came out smoother now. More natural, like I was starting to believe the lie myself. My phone buzzed. Another message from Elena. "The balloon ride was amazing. Wish you could have seen it. Sending you all my love from wine country." Attached was a photo, a hot air balloon floating over vineyards. Morning light painting everything gold. Professional quality. Could be real, could be stock photography. Could be an image she'd grabbed from Dylan's phone if he'd actually taken her on a balloon ride. Did it even matter which? I typed back, "Looks incredible. So glad you're having fun. Thinking of you. Send." And there it was. My first fully conscious lie to her. Not the semi-truth of last night's "love you too," but an actual fabrication. I wasn't glad she was having fun. I wasn't thinking of her with affection. I was thinking of her with a cold, calculating anger that was starting to feel more comfortable than it should. I was thinking about how satisfying it would be to watch her face when she realized I knew everything. I grabbed my keys and headed out to meet Derek, the mask of normalcy firmly in place. Time to see if I could really pull this off. Time to pretend my world wasn't ending while I figured out exactly how to burn Elena's down. The city moved around me like it always did, people going to work, tourists heading to the market, life continuing its relentless forward motion. I joined the current, just another man going about his day. Just another man whose wife was with another man. Just another man planning his revenge while smiling at strangers. By the time I reached the pub, I'd almost convinced myself I was fine. Almost. Derek was already at our usual booth when I arrived, halfway through a beer and scrolling through his phone. He looked up when he saw me, his face breaking into the easy grin I'd known for 15 years. "There he is," he said, standing to give me the kind of half-hug men do. "You look like shit, man." "Stomach bug?" "Something like that," I said, sliding into the booth across from him. "Rough couple of days." The server appeared, and I ordered a burger and a Coke. No alcohol. I needed my head clear for this performance. Derek raised an eyebrow at my drink choice. We usually both got beer, but didn't comment. "So, Elena's in Napa?" he asked. Sarah mentioned she saw something on Instagram about a wine trip. Sarah was Derek's wife. She and Elena were friendly, though not close. They'd occasionally get coffee together, share recipes, comment on each other's social media posts. The normal infrastructure of coupled friendships. "Yeah, girls' trip with Sienna, and some others," I said, the lie sliding out easier than it should have. "She's been sending me photos. Looks beautiful up there." Nice. Sarah's jealous. She's been wanting to do Napa for years, but we never seem to find the time. He took a drink of his beer. How are you holding up without her? You two are pretty attached at the hip. Were we? Had we been? I'd thought so. But maybe what I'd interpreted as closeness had actually been complacency. Maybe we'd just been going through the motions so smoothly that neither of us noticed we'd stopped actually connecting. It's fine, I said. Kind of nice to have the house to myself, actually. I can watch whatever I want, eat cereal for dinner, leave the toilet seat up. Derek laughed. Living the bachelor dream. Though knowing you probably meal prepped and are eating vegetables like a responsible adult. You know me too well. Did he, though? Derek knew Marcus, the good husband. Marcus, the reliable friend. Marcus, who showed up on time and remembered birthdays and never caused drama. But did he know this version of me, the one gathering evidence of his wife's betrayal, the one who'd spent last night in another woman's apartment, the one who was currently lying to his best friend's face? Our food arrived. I picked at my burger, not really tasting it, while Derek talked about work. Something about a difficult client. Office politics I didn't care about. I made the appropriate noises, asked the right follow-up questions, performed the role of engaged friend. You're quiet today, Derek observed after a while. Sure, you're feeling okay? Just tired. Didn't sleep great last night. Yeah? House too quiet without Elena? Something like that. Derek studied me with the kind of attention that came from years of friendship. He knew something was off, I could tell, but he was giving me space to tell him what, waiting for me to open up the way I usually did. Except I couldn't. Not yet. Not when I didn't know what the end game was. Not when telling Derek would make it real in a way that felt too permanent. Hey, can I ask you something? I said instead. Always. If Sarah cheated on you hypothetically, would you want to know right away? Or would you want, I don't know, time to process before confronting her? Derek's expression shifted immediately. Concerned. Alert. That's a hell of a hypothetical, man. Is this about someone you know? Because if Elena... Not Elena. I cut him off quickly. Too quickly. Just something I was thinking about. Like, what's worse, the betrayal itself, or the humiliation of being the last to know? He sat back, processing the question. I mean, I'd want to know immediately. Wouldn't want to waste another second on someone who could do that. But I guess it depends on what you do with the information. If you're just going to blow up your life in anger versus taking time to make smart decisions. He shrugged. Maybe there's value in sitting with it first. Yeah, I said. That's what I was thinking. Derek's eyes narrowed slightly. Marcus, what's going on? And don't tell me nothing because I've known you since freshman year. I know when something's eating at you. I opened my mouth to deflect again, but something in his expression stopped me. This was Derek, my best friend. The guy who'd been there through my dad's death, through the rough patches of my relationship with Elena, through everything. Maybe I needed to tell someone. Maybe keeping it all inside was going to make me implode. If I tell you something, I said slowly, can you promise not to react? Not to tell Sarah yet? Not to do anything except just listen? His face went serious immediately. Of course. Whatever you need. I took a breath, let it out, crossed a threshold I couldn't uncross. Elena's not in Napa with the girls. She's with her boss, Dylan Ashford. They've been having an affair for at least 4 months. The words hung in the air between us. Derek's expression went through several rapid changes: shock, anger, disbelief, then settling into something harder. How do you know? He asked quietly. I ran into Sienna yesterday, she told me. She found out weeks ago, confronted Elena. They had a falling out. Sienna's not on the trip because there is no trip. Elena's with Dylan, probably in Napa, having a romantic getaway while sending me fake photos and telling me she loves me. Derek's hands had curled into fists on the table. That fucking I'm going to kill her. And him. Jesus Christ. Marcus, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Just help me figure out what to do. What to do? You divorce her ass. Today. Right now. I'll help you pack her shit and change the locks before she gets home Sunday. I can't. Why the hell not? Because she doesn't know I know. And I want to keep it that way for now. I want to gather evidence, make a plan, figure out my next move. without her being able to manipulate the situation. If I confront her now, she'll cry and apologize and try to spin it. I don't want to give her that power. Derek stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. So you're just going to, what? Pretend everything's fine when she gets home? Smile and hug her and listen to her lies about wine tasting? Yes, that's insane. Maybe, but it's what I need to do. He leaned back, running his hand through his hair. Okay, I'm trying to understand this. You want to play it cool, gather your ammunition, blindside her when you're ready. I get the strategy. But Marcus, can you actually pull that off? Because you're the most honest person I know. You can't even lie about liking someone's cooking. How are you going to lie to your wife's face for days or weeks or however long this takes? I'll learn, I said simply. I'll become someone who can do that. Because the alternative is letting her control this narrative. And I'm done being controlled. Derek was quiet for a long moment, processing. Finally, he nodded slowly. All right, I think you're being crazy, but I also get it. You need to feel like you have some power in this situation. So what do you need from me? Just act normal. When you see us together, when Sarah talks to Elena, everything stays the same. No one can know I know. Can you do that? Can I? Yeah. Will it kill me to be nice to her when I know what she's doing to you? Probably. But I'll do it for you. He paused. What about Sienna? How does she fit into all this? I felt my expression shift before I could control it. Derek caught it immediately. Oh shit, he said. Something happened with Sienna. Nothing happened. She took me out for drinks after she told me. We talked. I stayed at her place because I'd had too much to drink to drive home safely. That's it. In the guest room? In the guest room. But she wanted more. I didn't answer, which was answer enough. Derek let out a low whistle. Man, this is getting complicated. Please tell me you're not planning to sleep with your wife's best friend as some kind of revenge. Ex-best friend. They haven't spoken in weeks. That doesn't make it less messy. I'm not planning anything with Sienna. She offered support. That's all. Support. Derek repeated skeptically. Is that what we're calling it? Look, I know how it looks, but right now, Sienna is the only person besides you who knows the truth. She's the only one I can talk to honestly about this without having to perform normalcy. That's worth something. Just be careful, Derek said. Revenge affairs might sound satisfying, but they don't actually fix anything. They just create new problems. I know. Do you? Because you've got that look in your eye. That I'm making decisions that might be terrible but feel righteous look. I've seen it before, usually right before you do something out of character that you regret later. He wasn't wrong. I could feel myself changing, making choices the old Marcus never would have made. The question was whether this new version of myself was who I needed to be to get through this, or whether I was just breaking in different ways. I appreciate the concern, I said, but I've got this under control. Famous last words. We finished our lunch, the conversation drifting to safer topics, sports, mutual friends, Derek's upcoming anniversary. I performed normalcy, laughed at his jokes, asked about his parents. By the time we left the restaurant, I'd almost convinced myself I was fine. Call me, Derek said as we stood on the sidewalk. Anytime, day or night. If you need to talk, if you need to drink, if you need help moving bodies, I'm here. Thanks, man. He pulled me into a proper hug this time, the kind that said everything words couldn't. When he pulled back, his expression was serious. For what it's worth, I always thought you were too good for her. You deserve someone who treats you like you're the only person in the world. Not someone who takes you for granted while she fucks her boss. The bluntness of it hit harder than I expected. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Derek left, and I stood there on the sidewalk, watching people flow around me, couples holding hands, business people on phones, tourists consulting maps, everyone living their own private dramas, carrying their own secrets. My phone buzzed. Elena again. Just finished the most amazing lunch at this tiny vineyard bistro. The chef came out and told us about each dish. This trip is everything I needed. Another photo, a beautifully plated meal, artfully arranged vegetables, and what looked like duck. Could be from the restaurant, could be from Google. At this point, I was starting to assume everything she sent me was fabricated until proven otherwise. I typed back, "Looks incredible. You deserve it. Enjoy every moment." Every word felt like glass in my throat, but they came out smooth, practiced. I was getting better at this. I walked back to where I'd parked my car, my mind churning through possibilities. Derek thought I was crazy to wait. Maybe he was right. Maybe the smart thing was to confront Elena immediately, start divorce proceedings, rip the Band-Aid off fast and clean. But there was something else driving me now, something colder and more calculating than I'd known I was capable of. I didn't just want to end my marriage. I wanted Elena to understand what she'd done. Wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal. Wanted her to know that while she'd been playing her games, I'd been playing mine. And I wanted her to realize she'd lost. Not just me, not just our marriage, but any moral high ground, any claim to having been the victim of a boring marriage or an inattentive husband. I wanted her to face the reality that she'd had something good and she'd thrown it away for something flashy and temporary. Maybe that made me petty. Maybe it made me vindictive. But it also made me feel powerful in a situation where I'd felt powerless for too long. I got in my car and drove home, already planning my next moves. I needed more evidence, needed to document everything, needed to make sure that when I finally did confront her, she couldn't lie her way out of it. When I walked into my house, it felt different than it had this morning. Less like a home, more like a crime scene I was investigating. I went upstairs to our bedroom, my bedroom, and started searching. Elena's laptop was in her home office, password protected, but I knew the password our anniversary. How sickeningly ironic. I logged in and started going through her emails, her messages, her files, looking for evidence of her affair, of her lies, of her double life. And I found it. All of it. Email exchanges with Dylan planning their trip, messages discussing which lie to tell me, photos of them together that she'd never posted publicly, evidence of other trips I'd thought were work-related, a whole secret life, documented and preserved because she'd never thought I'd look. I saved everything to a flash drive, backed it up to the cloud, made copies of copies, built my case piece by piece, evidence by evidence, lie by lie. By the time I was done, it was evening. The sun was setting, painting our bedroom in golden light. In this light, everything looked beautiful, soft, like a magazine photo of domestic bliss. But now I knew what existed beneath the surface. The rot. Underneath. The pretty paint. My phone buzzed. "Sienna, how are you holding up? Did you tell Derek?" I typed back, "Yes, and I'm managing." Started gathering evidence. Good. Want company? Or do you need to be alone? I looked around the empty house. Thought about spending another evening here by myself, surrounded by the ghost of my marriage. Company would be good, I typed. On my way. I'll bring wine. I sat there on the bed Elena and I had shared for 8 years, the bed where we'd made love and argued and slept side by side through thousands of nights, the bed that meant nothing now. The bed I'd probably replace once this was all over, and I waited for Sienna to arrive, for this new version of my life to continue unfolding, for the man I was becoming to solidify into something permanent. Outside, the sun finished setting, and darkness crept in to fill its place. Sienna arrived 40 minutes later, with 2 bottles of wine and a bag from an upscale Italian deli. She stood on my doorstep in jeans and a cashmere sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders, looking less polished than usual, more real. "I figured you hadn't eaten actual food today," she said, holding up the bag. "Carbonara, caprese salad, and tiramisu. Comfort food." I stepped aside to let her in. This was the first time Sienna had been in my house without Elena present. The first time she'd crossed this particular threshold. It felt significant in a way I couldn't quite articulate. She moved through the space like she belonged there, setting the food on the kitchen counter, opening cabinets to find plates like she'd done it 100 times before. Maybe she had, back when she and Elena were still friends. back when my marriage was still intact. How was lunch with Derek? She asked, uncorking one of the wine bottles. I told him. About everything. She paused mid-pour, looking up at me. How did he take it? About how you'd expect. Wanted to kill Elena and Dylan, thought I was crazy for not confronting her immediately, agreed to keep the secret anyway, because he's a good friend. And, do you regret telling him? I thought about it. No, I needed someone else to know. Someone who could tell me I'm not losing my mind, that this is actually happening. Sienna handed me a glass of wine. You're not losing your mind. You're actually being remarkably rational about an incredibly irrational situation. She gestured toward the living room. Should we eat in there, or do you prefer the kitchen? Living room is fine. We settled on the couch, Elena's favorite couch, the one she'd insisted we buy, even though it cost twice what I thought was reasonable. Sienna had kicked off her shoes and tucked her feet under her, making herself comfortable in my wife's spot. The symbolism wasn't lost on either of us. So, she said, handing me a plate of pasta, tell me about the evidence you gathered. I told her everything I'd found, the emails, the photos, the messages, planning their trip, and discussing what lies to tell me. The whole sordid documentation of Elena's betrayal, saved and backed up and ready to be weaponized when the time came. Sienna listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each detail. She actually wrote that? She said when I mentioned one particularly callous email where Elena had laughed about how oblivious I was. That you were adorably clueless? Word for word. Jesus. Sienna set down her wine glass with more force than necessary. I knew she was being selfish, but I didn't realize she was being cruel about it. That's not just betrayal, Marcus. That's contempt. The word hit hard because it was exactly right. Elena didn't just cheat on me. She held me in contempt, viewed me as naive, boring, easy to fool. That hurt almost worse than the affair itself. Do you think she ever loved me? I asked quietly. Or was I always just the safe choice, the responsible husband, while she waited for someone exciting to come along? Sienna reached over and took my hand. I think she loved you, or loved the version of you that made her feel secure. But somewhere along the way, she confused security with suffocation. She started seeing your stability as dullness, your reliability as predictability. And instead of talking to you about it, instead of working on the marriage, she just looked elsewhere. She gave up on us without telling me we were failing. Exactly. And that's on her, not you. You can't fix a problem you don't know exists. We ate in silence for a while, the pasta rich and comforting despite everything. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet, just the occasional car passing, the distant sound of someone's dog barking. Normal Wednesday evening sounds. Life. Continuing on. Can I see the photos? Sienna asked eventually. The ones you found of them together? I hesitated. Why? They're not pleasant. I know, but I want to see what she threw away our friendship for. Want to see if he looks like he's worth it. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder where I'd saved everything. Started showing her the photos, Dylan and Elena, at gallery openings, at restaurants, in what looked like a hotel room somewhere. In every single one, Elena was radiant, glowing, looking at Dylan like he was the most fascinating person she'd ever met. I watched Sienna's face as she scrolled through them, saw her expression shift from anger to something else. Something almost like pity. You know what's sad? She said finally. She looks happy, genuinely happy, and I hate that. I want her to look miserable and guilty, but she doesn't. She looks like a woman in love. The observation stung, but it was true. Elena in these photos looked nothing like the woman I'd been living with for the past several months. That woman had been distracted, distant, going through the motions. This woman, the one with Dylan, was alive in a way I hadn't seen in years. Maybe I made her miserable, I said. Maybe I was so boring and predictable that being with me was slowly killing her spirit or whatever. Stop! Sienna's voice was sharp. Don't do that to yourself. You didn't make her cheat. She chose to cheat instead of communicating. Those are two very different things. But if I'd been different... If you'd been different, She would have found some other excuse. People who cheat don't do it because their partners are inadequate. They do it because they're selfish and entitled and think they deserve to have everything without having to choose. She set my phone down. Dylan Ashford is exciting because he's forbidden, because he's risky, because sneaking around with him makes her feel young and alive. But you know what? That's not love. That's just adrenaline masquerading as passion. How do you know? Because I've done it. Sienna looked away, her jaw tight. After I ended things with David, I had a string of affairs with inappropriate men, married men, mostly. Men I knew I could never actually be with. And I told myself it was passion, that I was finally feeling something real. But the truth was, I was just addicted to the drama. To the sneaking around, to feeling wanted by someone who had to risk something to be with me. This was new information. I studied her profile as she stared out the window. What changed? I asked. I got tired of being the other woman, tired of dates in obscure restaurants and never being able to post photos or tell people about the men I was seeing. Tired of always being a secret. She turned back to me. One day I woke up and realized I was 34 years old and I'd never had a real relationship, just a series of dramatic affairs that went nowhere. And I thought, is this really all I want? To be perpetually hidden? So you stopped. So I stopped, started going to therapy, working on why I kept choosing unavailable men. And I realized it was safer. If they couldn't fully commit to me, I never had to fully commit to them. Never had to risk being vulnerable or having my heart broken. She smiled sadly. Turns out, I was just as much of a coward as the men I was sleeping with. The vulnerability in her confession was striking. This wasn't the confident, knowing Sienna from the parking lot or the wine bar. This was someone who'd done the hard work of examining her own patterns and come out the other side. Is that what this is? I asked. With me? Another inappropriate affair? She considered the question carefully. I don't know yet. Maybe it started that way as an opportunity to do something I've wanted to do for years. But Marcus, I'm not sneaking around with you. I'm not hiding. If anything, I want the opposite. I want Elena to know. Want her to see what she lost. Want her to understand that you were always too good for her, and now someone else sees it. That sounds like revenge, not romance. Maybe it's both. She shifted closer to me on the couch. Is that so terrible? To want justice and connection at the same time? My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Both of us looked at it. Ending the day with a sunset wine tasting. This place is magical. Wish you were here to share it with me. Missing you so much. Another photo. Another perfect sunset. Another lie wrapped in declarations of love. She really commits to the performance, Sienna observed. Yeah. I picked up the phone, stared at the message. You know what's weird? Part of me wants to believe her. Wants to think that maybe she really does miss me, even while she's with him. That maybe she's compartmentalized so thoroughly that she can actually mean both things. Loving me and loving him. People are capable of remarkable cognitive dissonance, Sienna said. She probably does miss certain things about you. The security, the comfort, the life you built together. But missing someone and actually loving them are different things. I typed back, looks beautiful. Enjoy every moment. Love you. The lies were getting easier. That should have worried me more than it did. When she gets home Sunday, Sienna said, how long are you planning to keep this up? Days? Weeks? I don't know. As long as it takes to get everything in order. Consult with a divorce attorney, figure out our assets, make sure I'm protected legally and financially. I paused. Derek thinks I'm crazy. That I should just confront her immediately. Derek's thinking emotionally. You're thinking strategically. There's value in both approaches, but given who you are, given what you need psychologically, I think you're doing the right thing. She picked up her wine glass, swirled the dark liquid. Besides, there's a certain poetry in it, don't you think? She's been performing for you for months. Now you get to perform for her. See how she likes being the one who's deceived. It was a dark thought, satisfying in its symmetry, but also troubling in what it said about who I was becoming. I used to be a good person, I said quietly. You still are a good person. You're just a good person who's been pushed too far. Sienna set down her glass and turned to face me fully. Marcus, being good doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people hurt you without consequence. You're allowed to be angry, allowed to want justice. That doesn't make you a bad person, it makes you human. Is that what you tell yourself? About wanting Elena to suffer? Yes. And I'm okay with it. She hurt both of us. You far worse than me, obviously. But she still threw away a 20-year friendship like it meant nothing. So yes, I want her to face consequences. I want her to lose something she values. And if that makes me petty and vengeful, so be it. At least I'm honest about my motivations. We sat there in the gathering darkness, the living room illuminated only by the lamp in the corner. Outside, night had fully fallen. Inside, something else was falling too, the last remnants of who I used to be, perhaps. Or maybe just the illusions I'd been clinging to about my marriage, my wife, my life. Can I ask you something personal? I said. Haven't we moved past the need for permission at this point? Fair enough. The men you had affairs with, the married ones, did any of them ever leave their wives for you? No, not one. She didn't look away, didn't try to soften it. They'd say they were going to, that they just needed to wait for the right time, get their finances in order, make sure the kids were stable, but the right time never came. Because the truth was, they didn't want to blow up their lives. They just wanted the thrill of me on the side. Do you think that's what Elena has with Dylan? Just a thrill? Probably. Men like Dylan Ashford don't leave their wealthy wives for their gallery employees. The risk-reward ratio doesn't make sense. He gets to have his stable home life, his social standing, his wife's money, and he gets the excitement of Elena too. Why would he give up any of that? So she's going to end up with nothing. Neither of us. Unless she gets smart and ends it before you catch her, comes home, confesses, begs for forgiveness. Some women do that, have their affair, get it out of their system, then try to salvage their marriage. I tried to imagine Elena doing that, confessing everything, crying, asking me to forgive her. Tried to imagine what I'd say if she did. A week ago, I might have considered it, might have been willing to try therapy, rebuild trust, work through it. But now, knowing what I knew about the contempt in those emails, the calculated lies, the deliberate deception, I couldn't imagine taking her back. The woman I'd loved didn't exist. Or maybe she'd never existed in the first place. I wouldn't take her back, I said, even if she begged. Good. Sienna shifted even closer, close enough that I could feel her warmth. You deserve better than someone who sees you as adorably clueless. You deserve someone who sees you as essential. Someone like you? I'd like to think so. Her hand found mine again, her fingers threading through mine. But I'm also self-aware enough to know I'm compromised here. I want you. I've wanted you for years, so maybe I'm not the most objective person to tell you what you deserve. We sat there holding hands in the semi-darkness, and I felt something shift between us, a crossing of some invisible line. This was no longer just about Sienna supporting me through my wife's betrayal. This was becoming something else. Something dangerous and possibly inevitable. I should go, she said, but she didn't move. You need time to process everything, and I need to not take advantage of how vulnerable you are right now. What if I don't want you to go? The question hung between us, heavy with implication. Sienna's eyes searched my face. Marcus, if I stay, if we cross that line tonight, there's no going back. You'll have done exactly what Elena's doing. And I know you'll hate yourself for it, even though the situations aren't equivalent. Maybe I need to hate myself a little. Maybe I need to stop being the good husband to a bad wife and just feel something other than betrayal. I understand that impulse, but I also think you should sleep on it. Make that decision when you're clear-headed and sober, not when you're wounded and angry and looking for any way to make the pain stop. She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally were two different things. "Will you stay anyway?" I asked. "Not for that. Just stay. Sleep in the guest room again. I don't want to be alone in this house tonight." Sienna studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, I'll stay." "But Marcus?" "Tomorrow, when the sun comes up and you have some distance from today, you need to really think about what you want, not just from me, but from all of this. Because you're at a crossroads, and the path you choose now is going to determine who you become on the other side of this." "I know." She squeezed my hand and stood up, gathering our plates. "Guest room, then, and tomorrow we figure out your next move." As she headed toward the kitchen with our dishes, I sat there thinking about crossroads and choices and the man I was becoming. Outside, the world kept turning. Inside, everything had already changed. The question was whether I was changing into someone stronger or just someone different. I wasn't sure I knew the answer yet. I woke Thursday morning to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone moving around downstairs. For a disoriented moment, I thought it was Elena, that everything from the past 2 days had been a nightmare and my wife was home making breakfast like she always did on her days off. Then reality crashed back in. Sienna, not Elena. Elena was still in Napa, or wherever she actually was, with Dylan. Sienna had stayed over, slept in the guest room like she promised, and was apparently now making herself at home in my kitchen. I checked my phone. 7:23 a.m. 3 messages from Elena, all sent within the past hour. "Good morning. Last full day here. Kinda sad it's almost over." 6:45 a.m. "The girls and I are doing a spa day this morning. So needed after all the wine." 7:2 a.m. / "I can't wait to see you Sunday. I've missed you so much." Counting down the hours. 7:18 a.m. Each message was a masterpiece of deception. The casual details, the emotional authenticity, the countdown to reunion, all designed to make me believe in a reality that didn't exist. I typed back, "Enjoy the spa. You deserve it. Can't wait to have you home." The lie came easier every time. I was getting good at this performance, and I wasn't sure how I felt about that. I got up, pulled on sweatpants and a t-shirt, and headed downstairs. Sienna was in the kitchen, wearing one of my old college sweatshirts over her clothes from yesterday, her hair pulled into a messy bun. She looked younger this way, more approachable, less like the sophisticated woman from the wine bar and more like someone who belonged in domestic spaces. "Morning," she said, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "I hope you don't mind. I raided your closet. My clothes from yesterday felt too formal for morning coffee." "It's fine." I took the mug she offered. "You didn't have to make coffee." "I know, but I woke up early and couldn't fall back asleep, so I figured I might as well be productive." She leaned against the counter, studying me. "How are you feeling?" "Honestly, numb. Like I'm watching my life happen to someone else." "That's probably self-protective. Your brain giving you distance from the trauma so you can function." "You sound like a therapist." "I saw one for 3 years, picked up some vocabulary." She took a sip of her coffee. "Speaking of which, you should probably consider seeing someone too. Once this all comes out, once you're dealing with divorce proceedings and the fallout, having professional support will help." The word divorce still felt surreal. 2 days ago, I'd been planning to make risotto for my wife. Now, I was planning to end my marriage. "One thing at a time," I said. Sienna nodded, not pushing. We drank our coffee in comfortable silence for a while, and I found myself noticing small things, how she took her coffee black, how she'd found the good mugs without asking where they were, how natural she looked in my kitchen, wearing my clothes. This could be my life, I thought. Not with Sienna necessarily, but this morning coffee, with someone who wasn't Elena. Someone new. A whole different future I'd never imagined because I'd been so certain my marriage was permanent. "What are you thinking?" Sienna asked. "That everything I thought was solid turned out to be temporary. That I built my whole life around someone who was keeping one foot out the door the entire time. Not the entire time. I really do think she loved you once. But people change, want different things. And instead of being brave enough to say, 'I'm not happy, we need to talk,' She just checked out and found someone else. My phone buzzed. Not Elena this time, my divorce attorney's office, confirming my appointment for this afternoon. I'd made it yesterday after gathering all the evidence, when I was still riding the cold clarity of strategic thinking. Sienna noticed my expression. Attorney appointment? Yeah. 2 o'clock. Initial consultation. Good. That's good. You're taking concrete steps. She set down her coffee mug. Do you want me to come with you? For moral support? The offer was tempting, but something held me back. This felt like something I needed to do alone, my first official step toward ending my marriage. Bringing Sienna would complicate it in ways I wasn't ready for. I appreciate it, but I should do this myself. Of course. If she was disappointed, she didn't show it. What about after? You shouldn't be alone all evening, processing whatever comes up in that meeting. Sienna. I set down my own mug, met her eyes. We need to talk about what this is, what we're doing. She went very still. Okay, you stayed over again. You're wearing my clothes. You're making coffee in my kitchen and offering to go to my divorce attorney with me. This is starting to feel like we're together, she finished. Like we're a couple? Yeah, and I don't know if that's what I want. Or if I'm just latching on to you because you're the only person who knows the truth and I'm terrified of being alone right now. Sienna nodded slowly, absorbing this. That's fair. And honestly, I don't know either. I know I'm attracted to you. I know I've wanted you, for a long time. But I also know the circumstances are fucked up. That maybe I'm just the emotional rebound, the revenge affair, the transitional person who helps you get from your marriage to whatever comes next. And you'd be okay with that, being temporary? I don't know. She looked away. Out the kitchen window, at the morning light filtering through the trees. Part of me thinks I'd take whatever I could get with you, even if it's just a few weeks or months. Part of me thinks I deserve more than being someone's trauma response. She turned back to me. So, maybe we both need to sit with this. Figure out what we actually want versus what we think we want, because it feels like an answer to pain. It was the most honest conversation we'd had yet. No seduction, no strategy, no performance. Just two people trying to navigate something complicated without causing more damage. I don't want to hurt you, I said. I know, but Marcus, I'm a grown woman making my own choices. If I get hurt, that's on me. You're not responsible for protecting me from myself. She picked up her coffee again. What I need from you is honesty. If this is just about having someone in your corner during your divorce, tell me. If you think there might be something real here beyond the circumstances, tell me that too. But don't protect my feelings at the expense of the truth. I've had enough lies from Elena to last a lifetime. Fair enough. I thought about it, really tried to examine my feelings beneath the anger and betrayal and pain. Honest answer, I don't know what I want. I know I'm attracted to you. I know I appreciate having you here. I know that when I'm with you, I feel less alone in this nightmare. But I also know I'm not in any state to start something new. My marriage isn't even officially over yet. So, what do you want to do? Want me to back off? Give you space to process everything on your own? Did I? The thought of facing the next few weeks alone, pretending with Elena while secretly planning my exit, was almost unbearable. But the thought of using Sienna as an emotional crutch, letting her get more invested in something I wasn't sure I could reciprocate, felt wrong too. I don't know, I admitted. What do you want? Sienna laughed, short and sharp. I want to wake up in your bed instead of your guest room. I want to be the person you turn to when this gets hard instead of the person you keep at arm's length. I want Elena to come home and find me here and have to face what she threw away. She shook her head, but I also know those are terrible reasons to start a relationship, that they're about revenge and validation more than actual connection. So we're both fucked up. She agreed. Which maybe means we should cool things off until we're thinking more clearly. Or maybe it means we're perfect for each other right now, two damaged people who understand each other's damage. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Derek, I should take this, I said. Sienna nodded, giving me privacy, by heading into the living room. I answered, Morning, Derek said. How are you doing? Still processing. Still pretending everything's fine. Yeah, Sarah texted Elena this morning. Something about yoga class next week. It took everything in me not to tell her the truth. Thank you for not telling her. I know it's hard. It's fucking awful, Derek said bluntly. But I get why you need to control this. Listen, I was thinking you said your attorney appointment is this afternoon, right? Yeah, 2 o'clock. Want to grab dinner after? You shouldn't be alone after that. It's going to stir up a lot of shit. I glanced toward the living room where Sienna was pretending to look at her phone, clearly listening. Actually, I might have plans already. With Sienna, maybe. Derek was quiet for a moment. Marcus, be careful. I know she's attractive and available and knows the truth about Elena, but she's also your wife's ex-best friend. The optics of that, even after you divorce, are going to be complicated. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're about to trade one messy situation for another. He paused. Look, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. If you want to sleep with Sienna, that's your business. But don't confuse comfort with compatibility. Don't make decisions based on who's available right now versus who you'd actually want to be with in 6 months. He was right. Of course, Derek was usually right about this kind of thing. It was why he'd been happily married for 6 years, while I was discovering my marriage was a lie. I hear you, I said, and I appreciate it. I'm not making any big decisions right now, just trying to survive until Sunday. Okay, but my offer stands. If you need dinner, or drinks, or just someone to sit with who isn't emotionally invested in the outcome, I'm here. Thanks, man. After we hung up, I sat there for a moment, staring at my phone, Elena's messages, Derek's warnings, Sienna in my living room, all of it swirling together into a complicated mess I wasn't sure how to navigate. Sienna appeared in the doorway. Everything okay? Derek thinks I'm making a mistake. With you. Is he wrong? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. I looked up at her. Everyone who cares about me is telling me to slow down, be careful, not make impulsive decisions. And they're probably right. But Sienna, when I'm with you, I feel like I can breathe. Like someone actually sees me. And I know that's probably just because you're the only person who knows the full truth, but it matters anyway, she finished. She came and sat next to me at the kitchen table. Marcus, I'm not going to push you into anything. If you need space, I'll give you space. If you need time, I'll give you time. But I'm also not going to pretend I don't want you, or that I'm not hoping something real could develop between us once you're through the worst of this. And if it doesn't, if I end up deciding I need to be alone for a while, figure out who I am outside of marriage, then I'll be disappointed, but I'll survive. She reached over and took my hand. One of the benefits of all that therapy I mentioned, I learned that I can't control other people's feelings. I can only control my own choices. And right now, I'm choosing to be here, to support you, knowing full well it might not turn into what I hope. It was such a mature, self-aware response that it made me feel even more confused. How was I supposed to resist someone who was being this honest, this clear-eyed about the situation? I should get ready, I said, pulling my hand away gently. The attorney appointment is in a few hours, and I need to shower, get my head together. Of course. Sienna stood. I should head home anyway. Change clothes, get some work done. I've been neglecting my clients. She paused at the doorway. Call me after your appointment? Let me know how it goes? Yeah, I will. She started to leave, then turned back. Marcus, whatever you decide about us, about Elena, about everything, make sure it's what you actually want. Not what you think you should want. Not what will hurt Elena most. Not what's easiest. What you actually want. Okay? Okay. After she left, the house felt emptier than before. I went upstairs to shower, letting the hot water wash away some of the confusion. By the time I was dressed and ready to leave for the attorney's office, I'd received 2 more messages from Elena about the spa day and how relaxed she felt. I responded with the appropriate enthusiasm, playing my role perfectly. Then I grabbed the flash drive with all the evidence and headed out to take the first official step toward ending my marriage. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. The world looked absurdly normal for a day when everything was changing. I got in my car and drove toward my future, whatever that turned out to be. The law office of Catherine Chen was located in a sleek downtown building with floor-to-ceiling windows and the kind of minimalist decor that screamed expensive. I sat in the waiting room, surrounded by other people at various stages of relationship dissolution, all of us avoiding eye contact like we were in a doctor's office waiting for test results we didn't want to hear. "Mr. Walsh?" A woman in her mid-40s appeared in the doorway. Catherine Chen was petite, sharp-eyed, and dressed in a charcoal suit that projected competence and no-nonsense efficiency. "Come on back." Her office was as precise as she was organized bookshelves, a desk free of clutter, framed diplomas from Stanford and University of Washington. She gestured to a chair across from her desk and sat down, folding her hands in front of her. "So," she said, "you indicated on the phone that you're considering divorce due to your spouse's infidelity. Tell me everything." I did. Started with running into Sienna in the parking lot and laid out everything I'd discovered over the past 2 days. The affair with Dylan, the fake girls' trip, the evidence I'd gathered, the messages I'd found. Catherine took notes on a legal pad, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp and calculating. When I finished, she sat back and studied me. "First question," she said. "Does your wife know you're aware of the affair?" "No. She thinks I'm completely in the dark." "Good. Keep it that way until you're ready to file. The element of surprise gives you strategic advantage." She flipped through her notes. "You said you documented everything: emails, text messages, photos, financial records, all saved to a flash drive and backed up to the cloud." "Excellent. Washington is a no-fault state, so we don't technically need proof of adultery to proceed with divorce. However, evidence of her affair could be relevant when it comes to dividing assets, especially if she spent marital funds on the relationship." I handed her the flash drive. There are hotel charges, restaurant bills, gifts, thousands of dollars over the past 4 months. Catherine plugged the drive into her computer and started scrolling through the files. Her expression remained professional, but I caught the slight tightening around her eyes, the look of someone who'd seen this pattern too many times. "This is thorough," she said. "Almost too thorough. How long have you been gathering evidence?" "Since Tuesday evening. 2 days." 2 days. She looked impressed. Most people wait weeks or months before they start documenting. By then, evidence has been deleted. Patterns have changed. The fact that you acted immediately shows clear thinking under emotional duress. That'll serve you well in this process. What happens next? Catherine pulled up a document on her computer. Here's the general timeline. First, we prepare a petition for dissolution of marriage. We can file it whenever you're ready. Today, next week, next month. Once filed, your wife has 20 days to respond. During that time, we'll also request temporary orders regarding the house, finances, any shared assets. How long does the whole process take? In Washington, there's a 90-day mandatory waiting period from the date of filing to the date the divorce can be finalized. In practice, with property division and negotiations, it usually takes 6 to 12 months. Longer if it's contested. 6 to 12 months. Half a year to a full year of my life spent dismantling my marriage. Will it be contested? I asked. Given the evidence? Depends on whether she wants to fight or just wants it over. Some people, when confronted with clear evidence of their infidelity, will agree to reasonable terms quickly to avoid public exposure. Others will fight out of guilt, anger, or a desire to maintain control. Catherine closed her laptop. The question is, what do you want beyond ending the marriage? What's your ideal outcome here? I thought about it. What did I want? The house, I said slowly. We bought it together, but I paid the majority of the down payment with inheritance money from my father. I want to keep it. Reasonable. What else? Fair division of our other assets. Retirement accounts, savings, investments. I'm not trying to punish her financially, I just want what's fair. No alimony? I make more than she does, so she'd probably be entitled to it. But I'd rather negotiate a clean break. She gets a larger share of assets in exchange for waiving spousal support. Catherine nodded approvingly. That's often the smartest approach. Ongoing alimony keeps you connected to her financially for years. A clean property settlement lets you both move on completely. She made more notes. What about personal property? Furniture? Art? Vehicles? She can have whatever she wants, except a few specific things. My father's desk, some family photos, my book collection. Everything else is negotiable. You're being remarkably rational about this. I'm angry, I admitted. Furious, actually. But I also know that dragging this out, or fighting over every plate and picture frame, won't make me feel better. It'll just prolong the pain. That's a mature perspective. Many people let emotion drive their decisions in divorce and end up spending thousands in legal fees fighting over things that don't actually matter to them. They just don't want their spouse to have them. I don't want to be that person. Good. Catherine leaned forward. Now, let's talk about timing. When does your wife return from her trip? Sunday evening. And you're planning to act normal when she gets home? That's the plan. Let her think everything is fine while I finalize things with you. How long do you want to maintain that pretense? It was the same question Sienna had asked. How long could I live with someone I was planning to divorce, knowing what I knew, pretending everything was fine? A week, I said. Maybe 2. Long enough to get the paperwork prepared, make copies of any remaining documents I might need, transfer some money into a separate account so I'm not financially vulnerable when this explodes. Catherine nodded. That's wise. Once you tell her, things can get ugly fast. People do impulsive things, drain bank accounts, destroy property, hide assets. Protecting yourself financially before the confrontation is smart. She opened a new document. I'll draft the petition this week. You can review it, we'll make any necessary changes, and then you decide when to file. You can serve her immediately, or you can have the papers ready and serve her after a conversation. Your choice. What would you recommend? Depends on what you want the confrontation to look like. Some people prefer to sit down, explain they know about the affair, say they want a divorce, and then have the papers served. Others prefer to serve first, let their spouse find out about the divorce at the same time they're confronted about the infidelity. It's more dramatic, leaves less room for negotiation, but it also sends a clear message that this isn't a discussion. I imagined both scenarios. Sitting Elena down, telling her I knew everything, watching her try to explain or apologize, versus having her served with divorce papers at work, in front of her colleagues, in front of Dylan. Public humiliation versus private confrontation. I'll think about it, I said. Take your time. You have control of this process right now. Don't give that up by acting impulsively. Catherine stood, extending her hand. I'll have the draft petition ready by early next week. In the meantime, continue documenting anything relevant. And Marcus, try to take care of yourself. This process is emotionally brutal even when you're the one initiating it. I shook her hand and left the office, stepping back out into the bright afternoon. The consultation had lasted an hour, but it felt like I'd crossed some threshold. This was real now. Not just discovering Elena's betrayal, but actively planning to end my marriage. Documents being drafted, timelines being set, the machinery of divorce beginning to turn. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. Sienna. How did it go? I sat in the driver's seat, staring at the message. Derek had offered dinner. Sienna was waiting to hear from me. I could go home alone and process everything by myself. 3 options, each representing a different choice about who I was becoming. I called Sienna. Hey, she answered immediately. How are you? Numb, overwhelmed, weirdly relieved. I leaned my head back against the seat. The attorney says I'm being too rational, that most people let emotion drive their decisions. You've always been rational. It's one of the things She paused. It's one of your strengths. I noticed the catch, the words she'd almost said. One of the things I love about you. The almost confession hung between us through the phone line. Sienna, can I ask you something? Of course. When did it start? The attraction. Was it really at my wedding? Or is that just a good story? She was quiet for a moment. It was before the wedding, at your engagement party. You and Elena had just announced you were getting married. Everyone was celebrating, and I watched you the whole night. You were so attentive to her, so clearly devoted, but you were also funny and smart when you talked to people. You asked real questions, remembered details from previous conversations. You made everyone feel seen. She paused. And I remember thinking, Elena is so lucky. And then immediately feeling terrible for thinking it. Why terrible? Because she was my best friend. Because you were her fiancé. Because I was supposed to be happy for her, not envious of what she had. Another pause. I tried to shake it off, told myself it was just pre-wedding jitters on my end. I was single at the time, feeling behind in life. But then at your wedding, watching you two exchange vows, I realized it wasn't going away. If anything, it was getting stronger. So you've been carrying this for 9 years. 9 years of watching you be the husband I wanted for myself. 9 years of Elena complaining about things that I would have cherished: your reliability, your thoughtfulness, your steadiness. 9 years of thinking I was a terrible person for wanting my best friend's husband. Her voice had gone soft, vulnerable, and then she went and threw it all away for Dylan fucking Ashford, and I stopped feeling guilty. She doesn't deserve you. She never did. The rawness in her voice struck something in me. This wasn't just opportunistic attraction or revenge fantasy. Sienna had been carrying feelings for me for nearly a decade, had buried them out of loyalty to Elena, and was now finally free to express them. The weight of that felt enormous. I don't know what to do with that information, I admitted. You don't have to do anything with it. I'm not telling you to make you feel obligated or to pressure you into something. I'm just being honest, like you asked. She took a breath. So, do you want company tonight? Or do you need space? I thought about going home to the empty house. Thought about sitting alone with the knowledge that my marriage was ending, that legal documents were being drafted, that Sunday Elena would return and I'd have to perform normalcy while planning her devastation. Company, I said. But Sienna, I need you to understand. I can't promise you anything right now. I can't be what you want me to be. I'm barely holding myself together. I know. And I'm not asking for promises. I'm just asking to not leave you alone tonight. Okay, come over. Bring dinner or don't. Whatever. Just .com me over. I'll be there in an hour. After we hung up, I sat in the parking garage and checked my messages. Elena had sent 3 more photos of the spa, a message about how much the massage had helped her stress, a countdown to Sunday. 48 hours until she came home to a husband who was already gone, emotionally, if not yet legally. I responded with enthusiasm I didn't feel, playing my role. Then I drove home, stopping at a liquor store for whiskey and wine. If Sienna was coming over, if we were going to spend another evening together, I needed fortification, needed something to dull the sharp edges of what I was feeling. At home, I cleaned up from this morning, put away the coffee mugs, straightened the living room, changed the sheets in the guest room. Then I stopped myself. Why was I changing the guest room sheets? Was I assuming Sienna would stay over again? Hoping she would? My phone buzzed. Derek, you alive? How'd the lawyer go? Brutal, but necessary. Petition will be ready next week. Jesus. This is really happening. Yeah, it is. You sure about this? Once you file, there's no taking it back. I stared at his message. Was I sure? Could I really go through with this? I thought about Elena's emails to Dylan, calling me adorably clueless. Thought about the hotel charges and restaurant bills and the systematic deception. Thought about coming home Sunday and having to pretend everything was fine while knowing she'd spent the week with another man. I'm sure, I typed back. She made her choice. Now I'm making mine. All right. I'm here if you need me. Even if you're making questionable decisions with Sienna. Noted. An hour later, Sienna arrived with Thai food and that same easy comfort she'd brought yesterday. We ate at the kitchen table, talked about everything except Elena and divorce and what we were doing. Just talked about books and movies and travel and the 1,000 small things people discuss when they're getting to know each other. And somewhere in that conversation, I realized I was enjoying myself, actually smiling, actually forgetting, for moments at a time, that my life was falling apart. When Sienna reached across the table and took my hand, I didn't pull away. When she suggested we watch a movie, I agreed. When she fell asleep on the couch next to me halfway through, her head resting on my shoulder, I didn't wake her. And when I finally carried her to the guest room at midnight, she mumbled something that sounded like my name and smiled in her sleep. I stood in the doorway watching her for a long moment, this woman who'd wanted me for 9 years, who was here now when I needed someone, who was becoming something I couldn't quite name yet. Then I went to my own bed, the bed I'd shared with Elena, and tried to sleep. Tomorrow was Friday. 2 more days until Elena came home. 2 more days to prepare for whatever came next. Friday morning arrived with gray skies and the promise of rain. I woke to find Sienna already gone. A note on the kitchen counter written in her precise handwriting. Had an early client meeting. Didn't want to wake you. Call me later. S. Underneath, she'd drawn a small heart, then crossed it out, then drawn it again. The hesitation captured in ink, wanting to show affection, but unsure if she had the right. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, reading the note 3 times before folding it carefully and putting it in my pocket. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall, tapping against the windows like fingers asking to be let in. My phone showed 2 messages from Elena, sent early this morning. Last day in wine country. Sad to leave, but so excited to see you tomorrow. Missing you like crazy. 6:47 a.m. The girls are talking about making this an annual thing. What do you think? 7:15 a.m. An annual thing. She was already planning next year's cover story for next year's affair. The audacity of it would have been impressive if it weren't so devastating. I typed back, "Sounds great. You deserve time with your friends. Safe travels tomorrow. Love you." Each word was a small act of violence against myself, but I was committed to this path, now letting her come home, thinking everything was fine, giving myself time to prepare, maintaining control of the narrative. My phone rang. Catherine Chen. "Marcus, good morning. I have the draft petition ready. Can you come by the office today to review it?" "Yeah. What time?" "I have an opening at 11. Should only take an hour." After we hung up, I sat there staring at my coffee, trying to process the fact that somewhere in Catherine's office, there existed a legal document formally ending my marriage. Dissolution of marriage between Marcus James Walsh and Elena Marie Walsh. 8 years reduced to paperwork and signatures. I showered, dressed, and was about to leave when Derek called. "Hey, I'm taking a long lunch today. Want to grab something?" "Can't. Meeting with the attorney at 11 to review the petition." "Shit, that's fast. Catherine doesn't mess around. Listen, after that, want to come by the house? Sarah's at her sister's for the weekend. We can drink beer, watch whatever game is on, not talk about any of this if you don't want to." The offer was tempting. Normal male friendship, sports and beer in silence, no complicated emotions or strategic planning, or attractive women with 9-year crushes. Maybe. Let me see how I feel after the attorney. Offer stands. I'll be home by 2. At Catherine's office, she walked me through the petition page by page. Legal language that translated my marriage into terms like irreconcilable differences and equitable distribution of marital assets. There was something clinical about it, almost medical, like my marriage was a body being systematically dissected. "The key sections are here," Catherine said, pointing to highlighted paragraphs. "You're requesting to retain the marital home with a buyout payment to your wife for her share of the equity. You're proposing a division of retirement accounts and investments based on contribution percentages, and you're offering her 70% of the cash savings in exchange for waiving spousal maintenance. 70% seems generous." "It is, but it also makes it harder for her to fight. If you're offering more than she'd likely get in court, plus waiving her support obligations, she has less incentive to drag this out." Catherine leaned back. "The goal is to make accepting your terms more attractive than fighting them. What if she fights anyway, out of spite, or pride, or whatever? Then we go to court and let a judge decide. But honestly, Marcus, with the evidence you have of her using marital funds for an affair, you're in a strong position. Most attorneys would advise their clients to take a generous settlement rather than risk having their infidelity documented in public court records. Public court records. The thought of Elena's affair becoming public knowledge, available to anyone who wanted to search for it, gave me a grim satisfaction. When do I need to decide about filing? No rush. The petition is ready whenever you are. Some people file immediately and serve papers with no warning. Others wait, have the confrontation first, gauge their spouse's reaction before filing. It's entirely up to you and what outcome you're looking for. I thought about it. About Elena walking in Sunday evening, hugging me, telling me about her fake trip. About me smiling and nodding and asking questions while knowing everything. About how long I could maintain that performance before I cracked. I want to wait, I said. Let her come home, settle in, maybe even make it through Monday. I want her to feel safe, like she got away with it. Then, I want to take that safety away. Catherine studied me. That's cold. She's been lying to my face for 4 months. I think I'm entitled to a little cold. Fair enough. Just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Revenge feels good in the moment, but it doesn't actually heal anything. This isn't about revenge. It's about justice. If you say so. She stood, extending her hand. I'll have the final petition ready Monday morning. You can pick it up, review it one more time, and decide when to file. Once you do, the process server can deliver papers within 24 hours. I shook her hand and left, stepping out into rain that had gone from drizzle to downpour. I sat in my car in the parking garage, engine running, heat on, watching water stream down the windshield. Everything was ready. The evidence was gathered. The petition was drafted. All that remained was pulling the trigger. My phone buzzed. Sienna, how did the meeting go? Petition is ready. I can file whenever I want. How do you feel? I stared at the question. How did I feel? Powerful and powerless at the same time. Decisive and terrified. Clear-headed and completely lost. I don't know, I typed back. Can I see you? Of course. My place or yours? Yours. I need to not be in my house right now. Come over. I'll be here. I drove to Sienna's apartment through the rain, the wipers struggling to keep up with the deluge. Seattle was drowning today, the sky unleashing everything it had been holding back. Appropriate, somehow. Sienna answered the door in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her hair damp like she'd just showered. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside, into her arms, letting me just stand there and breathe. It's real now, I said into her shoulder. The petition exists. My marriage is over. It's just a matter of paperwork and time. I know. Come sit down. She led me to the couch, brought me whiskey without asking, sat close enough that our thighs touched. Outside, rain lashed against the windows. Inside, I felt something breaking that I'd been holding together through sheer force of will. Tell me I'm doing the right thing, I said. You're doing the right thing. Tell me I'm not overreacting, that this isn't salvageable, that I'm not throwing away 8 years over one mistake. This isn't one mistake, Marcus. This is 4 months of deliberate, calculated betrayal. This is her, using your trust as a weapon against you. This is her planning future affairs while telling you she loves you. You're not overreacting. You're finally reacting proportionally to what she's actually done. The words helped, but they didn't fill the hollow space opening up in my chest. That space where my marriage used to be, where my trust used to live, where my certainty about my life used to reside. I don't know who I am without her. I admitted. We've been together for 9 years, married for 8. My entire adult life has been built around being Elena's husband. When that's gone, what's left? Sienna took my hand. Marcus Walsh, software engineer, chess player, the guy who remembers everyone's coffee order, the person who still sends his college roommate birthday cards, the man who paid off his best friend's student loans anonymously and never told anyone. She squeezed my hand. You're not Elena's husband. That's just one role you've played. Underneath, You're all these other things. And they don't disappear just because your marriage ends. How do you know about Derek's student loans? Elena told me years ago. She was annoyed that you'd given away money you could have spent on a bigger house or a nicer car. I thought it was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever heard. Of course, Elena had been annoyed. She'd wanted the bigger house, the nicer car, the visible markers of success. She hadn't understood why helping a friend mattered more to me than square footage. She never really knew me, did she? I said quietly. Or she did and just didn't value the things that made me who I am. Probably both. People see what they want to see. She wanted the stable husband, the reliable partner, the safe choice. She just didn't want all the things that made you those things. Your thoughtfulness, your loyalty, your depth. She wanted the benefits without appreciating the source. I drained my whiskey and set the glass down. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, the storm intensifying. I should go to Derek's, I said. He invited me over. Beer and sports and male bonding or whatever. Do you want to go? I should want to. That's what normal people do. When they're going through something hard, lean on their same-gender friends. Avoid the opposite sex. Process things healthily. But I don't want to go to Derek's and pretend to watch sports while dying inside. I want to stay here with you and drink too much, and maybe make bad decisions I'll regret later, but at least feel something other than this fucking emptiness. Sienna's expression shifted concern and desire and calculation all at once. Marcus, you know if you stay, if we keep doing this, we're going to cross a line eventually. Maybe not today, but soon. And once we do, there's no going back to whatever this friendship-adjacent thing is. I know. And you're still technically married. Even if it's over in every way that matters, legally and technically, you're still married to Elena. If we sleep together, you'll be doing exactly what she's doing. It's not the same. Isn't it? She's with someone else while married to you. You'd be with someone else while married to her. The circumstances are different, but the action is the same. I stood up, started pacing. She was right. Of course she was right. But the difference felt important, even if I couldn't quite articulate why. She broke the marriage first, I said. She's the one who made vows meaningless. I'm just what? Evening the score? Taking what you're owed? Making sure she doesn't get to be the only one who stepped outside the marriage? Yes, all of that. I stopped pacing, faced her. Is that so wrong? She gets to have Dylan, gets to have her affair, gets to feel alive and desired and free. Why do I have to stay faithful to vows she already broke? Why do I have to be the good husband to a bad wife? Sienna stood, cross to me. You don't. You don't have to be anything except what you want to be. But Marcus, I need you to be very clear about what you're asking for. Are you asking to sleep with me because you actually want me? Or because you want to hurt Elena? Because one of those I can live with, the other I can't. I want you, I said, and was surprised to realize it was true. Not just wanting comfort or revenge or distraction, but actually wanting her. Wanting the woman who'd known me for 9 years, who saw things in me Elena never valued, who was looking at me right now like I was something worth having. You want me, she repeated. Right now, in this moment, still married, still processing, still angry and hurt and confused. You want me. Yes. She stepped closer, close enough that I could feel her breath. Then take me. Stop overthinking. Stop performing. Stop being the good guy who does the right thing. Just take what you want for once in your goddamn life. It was permission and challenge at once. An invitation to become someone I'd never been, someone who acted on desire without considering consequences, who took what he wanted without guilt, who stopped being the dependable Marcus everyone expected. I kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was hard and desperate, and full of 4 months of accumulating rage with nowhere to go. Sienna kissed back with equal intensity, her hands in my hair, her body pressed against mine. We stumbled toward her bedroom, shedding clothes along the way. Some distant part of my brain was screaming that this was wrong, that I'd regret it, that I was becoming exactly what I hated about Elena. But that voice was drowned out by desire and pain and the need to feel something, anything other than betrayed. Sienna's bedroom was all white sheets and soft light. She pulled me down onto the bed, and we stopped talking, stopped thinking, stopped being anything except two people trying to replace pain with pleasure, emptiness with connection, betrayal with something that felt like being wanted. Afterward, we lay tangled together, both breathing hard, both knowing we'd crossed a line we couldn't uncross. "Well," Sienna said finally, "that happened." "Yeah. Regrets?" I thought about it honestly. Did I regret it? I'd just slept with my wife's ex-best friend while my wife was still technically on her fake trip with her lover. I'd become the thing I'd hated Elena for, being an adulterer, a betrayer, someone who broke vows. But I didn't feel guilty. I felt something else, something like equilibrium restored, like I'd finally stopped being the victim and become an active participant in my own life. "No," I said. "No regrets." Sienna turned to face me, her expression serious. "This changes things. You know that, right?" "I know. I'm not just the friend who told you the truth anymore. I'm not just support or comfort. What am I, Marcus?" It was a fair question. What was she? Rebound? Revenge affair? Something real emerging from complicated circumstances? "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I know I don't want this to be the only time. I know I'm not done with you." She smiled, slow and satisfied. "Good, because I'm definitely not done with you." She traced patterns on my chest with one finger. "What happens when Elena comes home tomorrow?" I pretend, let her settle back in, gather the last bits of evidence if there are any. Then, sometime next week, I file the petition and have her served. Are you going to tell her about this? About us? I don't know. Should I? That depends. Do you want to hurt her as much as she hurt you? Because telling her you slept with my will accomplished that, she'll know she lost you to someone she threw away. Someone who's been in love with you longer than she's been cheating on you. The poetic justice of it was appealing, but something held me back. I don't want our relationship, whatever this is, to be defined by her, I said. Don't want it to exist just to hurt her. That makes it about her instead of about us. Look at you, being healthy and mature even while having a revenge affair. Is that what this is? A revenge affair? Sienna was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe it started that way. But Marcus, I've wanted you for 9 years. This isn't revenge for me. This is finally getting something I've always wanted. The circumstances are fucked up, but my feelings aren't calculated or strategic. They're real. They've always been real. I pulled her closer, breathing in her scent, feeling her warmth. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the city clean. Inside, I was someone new, someone who'd finally stopped trying to be good and just let himself be human. Stay with me this weekend, Sienna said. Don't go home to that empty house. Stay here. Let me take care of you before you have to go back to performing normalcy. Elena might call, might FaceTime. So answer from the guest room. Say you're at Derek's. Create an alibi. She propped herself up on one elbow. I'm serious, Marcus. You've spent the last few days preparing for war. Let yourself have 1 weekend of peace before the battle begins. It was tempting. 2 more days before Elena came home. 2 more days before I had to pretend, to perform, to be the husband of a woman I was divorcing. Okay, I said. I'll stay. Sienna's smile was genuine joy, uncomplicated by strategy or calculation. She kissed me again, softer this time, and I let myself sink into it. Tomorrow, Elena would come home. Next week, I'd file for divorce. But today, right now, in this moment, I was just a man with a woman who wanted him. It wasn't redemption, it wasn't healing, but it was something. And for now, that was enough.